been received from councillors Andrew Jones, Anne Rosenberg, Alex Sanderson, David Morton and Liz Collins. And Councillor Harvey. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
Madam Mayor, thanks. It's not a declaration of interest for the purposes of the Council's Code of Conduct, but for personal work reasons, I'll leave the meeting during special motions 3 and 7, so won't take part or vote in those items, and would be grateful if that could be recorded in the minutes.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Okay, minutes. Are the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of October 2025 agreed? Okay. Mayor's announcement. New Year's honours for 2026. On behalf of the Council, I'd like to extend our congratulations to the local people who were recognised in the King's New Year's Honours list. Bill Bailey, comedian, musician and broadcaster from Hammersmith, was awarded an MBE for services to entertainment. Jazz Brown, CEO of Shepherd's Bush charity Nubian Life, received a British Empire Medal for her services to the borough's Afro-Caribbean community. Dominic Allwood, Director of Population Health at the Imperial College Health NHS Trust, received an MBE for services to the NHS, recognising 20 years of senior leadership in public health medicine. Val Birchall, Hammersmith and Fulham's Council's Assistant Director for Culture, Tourism and Sport, was awarded an MBE for services to public libraries and culture, making 20 years in the cultural sector. Billy McGranahan, founder of Fulham-based single father charity Dad's House, has been awarded an MBE. Sir Tristram Hunt, president of the William Morris Society in Hammersmith, has been knighted. Neil Poulter, Imperial College professor based in White City, was awarded an MBE for services to hypertension prevention. Kira Walsh, Chelsea women midfielder, received an MBE for services to sport following major success, including Chelsea's domestic treble and England's European Championship victory with the Lionesses. I'd like to thank them all for their hard work and services to the communities. Are there any speakers? Oh, there you are. Sorry. That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay.
It's a huge honour for His Majesty to have His Majesty the King award anyone any type of recognition, but the list we have today and this year is particularly impressive. I've known Jazz Brown for some very long time. She's been a diligent servant, as was her father, who was a councillor on Hammersmith and Fulham Council, a Labour councillor and Labour mayor. And Jazz has been forthright in the fight for improving the lives of Black, Asian, minority and ethnic people, but particularly people from Afro-Caribbean heritage in Nubian life. She's a force for good in the world that deserves to be recognised. Bill Bailey, I first met when he came to the celebration party for the Labour victory in 2014, and told me a story that he was giving a comedy act in Latvia, only to hear that Hammersmith and Fulham had gone Labour, the borough he lives in, and so he led a Congo, he told me, around the Latvian comedy club. And I've always appreciated his comedy, but I appreciated it even more after that story. And as one of my constituents and Councillor Rowbottom's constituents, he's a very good man and a very good force in society, not least in our local borough as well as nationally. We work very closely with Imperial College London and now indeed the NHS Trust, who are both organisations that are industrial strategy partners and that we're working to grow ourselves not only as a life science powerhouse in the global economy, but also to improve people's lives locally in Hammersmith and Fulham. Both of the people at the different Imperials who are awarded rightly do it. Whenever you meet anybody from either of those institutions, serving academic cutting-edge R&D research or improving the health of local people, it is humbling to be in their presence and to hear of the work they do, and reassuring in this troubled world that so many positive outcomes are being achieved right here in Hammersmith and Fulham. Val Birchall, one of our very own council officers, doing a tremendous job for us, but clearly we were surprised that she was already very eminent by the time she came to work for us about 4 years ago. And it's a sign of her lifetime of dedication that she should be awarded such an honour. And indeed, whether it's playing football or whether it's serving the community or whether it's Tristram Hunt, former Labour minister, all of this is a huge accolade, the very best wishes. And I don't know about everybody else, but I've often reflected on these troubled times, and you look around the world and you see what's going on in other countries that have traditionally been our closest friends in many cases, whether elsewhere in Europe or elsewhere in the Western Hemisphere. I mean, you see what's going on with people dying and fighting in Iran just to get the basic freedoms we fight for, and you see the troubles going on in the streets of the United States. And I do reflect how good it is to be here in this little island of ours with the traditions that we have and the system that we have. And as I came down tonight looking about people going around, and I noticed a police car chasing down the street, not after me, you'll be pleased to know. But I did think there's no one in this country thinks they might get shot as the police turn up. And I did think that we have free and fair elections, we have a rule of law, we have a respect for human rights, and it's all of us incumbent in this chamber and anywhere else where there's elected representation to celebrate that. But more than that, when awards, honours are given to people, it is a celebration of their very big contribution to that fantastic world culture that is Great Britain. So thank you to all of the people for the work they've done, and huge congratulations for their undoubted recognition for the contribution that they've made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callan. Councillor Stanton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Leader, for your remarks and for paying tribute to those recognised in this New Year's Honours list. Whatever our political differences may be in this chamber, there are moments when we can and should speak with one voice. Celebrating the recognition and achievements of local residents is absolutely one of them. Ooh. Sorry, there's very little room at the back here. The people recognised this year are a reminder that Hammersmith and Fulham is not only a borough of talent, but a borough of service. People who contribute to making our community stronger, healthier, safer and kinder. Quietly, consistently, and often without any expectation of recognition. So I want to place on record our congratulations and sincere thanks to all those honoured this year. And apologies if this next bit might be slightly repetitious. To Bill Bailey, made an MBE, not only for an outstanding career in entertainment, but for the way he's used his profile to support important causes, including cancer research and nature conservation. It's a point of pride that someone so widely respected and so widely liked calls Hammersmith home, and we wish him continued success. To Jazz Brown, awarded the British Empire Medal for services to the Afro-Caribbean community through her leadership of Nubian life and decades of work supporting older residents, tackling isolation and strengthening community well-being. That kind of service is life-changing and often life-saving, and she and her team deserve enormous recognition. To Dominique Allwood, made an MBE for services to the NHS. Thank you for 2 decades of work in public health and clinical leadership, and particularly for work tackling inequality and improving health outcomes across communities. So much of what our residents rely on is held together by people like you, and we're grateful. To Val Birchall, also made an MBE for services to public libraries and culture. Libraries are often the quiet, beating heart of a community. They support learning, families, young people, job seekers, and those who simply need a safe, welcoming place. Public service doesn't always make headlines, but it makes lives better every day. To Billy McGranagan, made an MBE for his work for Ending Dad's House. We want to recognise the very practical human impact of that work. Food support, advice, a place for families to turn to when life becomes difficult. A charity like that doesn't just help people survive a hard period,
that helps them rebuild and move forward with dignity. To Sir Tristram Hunt, congratulations on his knighthood. For cultural leadership and public contribution, including his work connected to the William Morris Society here in Hammersmith. It matters that we celebrate not just our heritage, but the people who keep it alive, relevant and accessible. To Professor Neil Poulter, made an MBE for services to hypertension prevention. Thank you for a career dedicated to tackling what is often called the silent killer. That work doesn't just advance science, it prevents strokes, heart attacks, and saves lives in real communities like ours here. And to Kira Walsh, made an MBE for services to sport. Congratulations on the recognition and thank you for being part of the continuing rise in women's football. When young people see excellence up close, it stops being an abstract idea and it becomes something they believe they can be too. Madam Mayor, in different ways, every one of these honorees represents something important. Public service, generosity, excellence, leadership and commitment to others. So I welcome the leaders' comments. I join fully in the congratulations offered, and I hope we can all say clearly tonight that we are proud that these people are part of the Hammersmith and Fulham story. Thank you.
Moving now on to item 5, public questions. I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to submit questions to tonight's meeting. Public questions time is limited to 20 minutes. If a question does not receive a reply in this meeting, a written response will be sent and published in the minutes. For ease of reference, I have provided a copy of your questions for you. The questioner called will have an opportunity to ask a very brief follow-up question. Number 1, be informed the questioner is not available. Now, question number 2, I invite Roxanne Roach to ask a question to Councillor Sanderson, Deputy Leader. Please, can you read your question? No, she's not here. Okay, thank you. Moving now on to question 3. I invite Brian Mooney to ask a question to Councillor Chevaux-Verdier, Cabinet Member for Public Realm. Please, can you read your question?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, fellow residents, and especially Councillor Chevaux-Verdier. My question, Hammersmith and Fulham Council has committed to a feasibility study on eco road user charging, aka road pricing, web reference page 76. This has long been considered feasible technically, so has clear implications for overtaxed drivers. What criteria do you see as making its introduction desirable?
I invite the Cabinet Member.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hi, Brian. So no, we haven't. So the link that you've included in your question is a draft that went to public consultation that was reviewed by Cabinet in December 2023, and the final version doesn't have any commitment to introduce any such feasibility study.
Mayor, I thank the Cabinet Member for his answer. At the time when we were asked to produce questions, I did actually check what was down as action plan, and the document control has been a bit poor. I do thank him for the clarification that it is not going to be a case of going for road pricing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Question number 4, I invite Caroline Shuffrey to ask a question to Councillors Chevaux-Verdier.
Good evening, everyone. Despite the best efforts by the council, and I know they have made an effort to ensure that Uber and other private hire drivers are not fined when picking up or dropping off residents and their visitors inside our LTNs, the arrangements have failed, and many drivers are refusing to cross the cameras, even when residents offer to specifically put their registration numbers into Ringo. Would the council now recommend that residents, particularly women on their own, only hire black cabs, which are automatically exempt from camera fines, in order to ensure that they are not left stranded and forced to walk to and from home in the dark? Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. I invite the Cabinet Member to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, first of all, let me say that women's safety is paramount to us, of course, as an administration. You and I have been on the streets of South Fulham dark at night. You know that I always look out for my residents. On the very topic of Uber and Bolt, I was involved with then Councillor Coleman, now our local MP, talking to Uber and Bolt to make sure that that didn't happen. That led to an agreement being signed in 2024. And last year, I checked the latest data, about 50,000 taxi rides went through our cameras in South Fulham. So if there are cases of people, these are companies that I talk to for a variety of other things that I look after, and I'll be sure to take it up with them. But from my indication, there's a large volume of traffic going to and from South Fulham through the cameras.
Thank you.
You
I
have
would
a
like
brief
to ask
follow-up?
a follow-up, yes. It is not only Ubers that are adversely impacted by the traffic schemes. It also affects buses too. TfL.
Can I stop you? I think your question was actually originally about Uber. Can we stick to the actual follow-up to the Uber question about taxis? Thank you.
You are censoring me. You wish to do that.
Your follow-up
It was
question
it's
to the question.
rational, sensible, polite question.
We have a number of people would really like to get their public very much, Caroline. Moving on now. Thank you very much. Moving on to question number 5. I've been informed the questionnaire is unavailable to attend. Question number 6, I invite Donald Grant to ask a question to Councillor Chevot-Verdier, Cabinet Member for Public Realm. Please read your question.
Evening again, Madam Mayor and councillors. So I'm a resident of Wandsworth Bridge Road, and the leader, Councillor Cowan, advised me and a neighbour that we would be involved in any future changes to our road following the imposition of the LTNs. So one meeting was arranged, which was hosted by Councillor Holder, as she was at the time, but everything that we put forward was that actually the opposite was proposed by the officers. Luckily, these plans have been paused by Transport for London due to further impacting the bus journey times. But now we're left in limbo with a sort of half-finished scheme, and we're living daily with the risk of cyclists on the pavements and danger to pedestrians. It's for about 18 months now. Would you now acknowledge our views and arrange a public meeting to allow residents to contribute to the future plans for Wandsworth Bridge Road?
I invite the Cabinet Member to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just the text of your question was slightly different from what you said now. So just responding to your question, I don't think it's fortunate that TfL have paused the works. I don't think it's good that we are slower on introducing new raised crossings that will make disabled people, elderly people and people with pushchairs safer. That's how you see it. That's not how I see it. We are working with TfL. I, in fact, trekked all the way to City Hall just yesterday to talk to them about that and finding ways that we can resolve the problems. Unashamedly in favour of those things. I think they're a good thing. Accessibility and safety. You know, I've spoken to many people on the Wandsworth Bridge Road who've told me their children almost getting run over by cars multiple times a year. So, you know, I'll continue to push that for sure. On the aspect of consultation, I continue to work with residents and businesses. Look, in the last wave of letters I sent, some people expressed they didn't want some eBays in specific locations, and we listened to that and taken that on board. So it does prove to you that I want to work collaboratively with you.
Do you have a brief follow-up?
Yes, just on the point about cyclists, you didn't mention the cyclists and the pavements and the accidents which have happened to many cyclists and pedestrians as a result of that. So, including,
can we take that into account in your response in future?
Yeah,
okay?
so when a much more serious accident happens, who will take accountability, despite the fact of being warned? It'll be you or Councillor Cowan or our temporary MP Ben Coleman.
Do you want to answer?
Sorry, can I just ask what the follow-up question is exactly?
Yeah, I mean, when there's many unrecorded accidents involving cyclists, both on the roads and the pavements, as a result of this Wavy Road experiment, where parklets have been dumped on the cycle lanes, former cycle lanes. Who'll take accountability when the inevitable accident happens, a more serious one than the many that have happened just now?
So on that topic, I'd love for you to talk to the members opposite, because we've been pushing cyclist safety, we've been pushing cycle lanes, they've been opposing them. So it looks like we're kind of on the same bandwidth there. So yeah, let's work together to improve cyclist safety. Totally.
Okay, well, in the
Thank
interest of
you
time,
very
I'll leave it
much.
there. Thank you.
Both of you. Moving now on to question number 7. I invite Caroline Bowman-White to ask a question to Councillor Chavot-Verdier.
Hello, Madam Mayor. Hello, to see you. I'm asking my question to, sorry, he's not looking at me. Okay, thank you. Businesses were promised a new app to register customers to go through the cameras. We've now been waiting over 2 years. We were promised that it would definitely be working last August. Please, could you give me a firm date? As the existing app is very time consuming and businesses are having terrible problems with it.
Thanks, Vivian, for your question. Absolutely. So we've had to divert resources. We've got a small team working on improving the range of apps that we use for traffic and parking. They've shifted to resident experiences around the Ringo app. Now they've been able to talk to businesses with a beta version of what we want to put out to people. We've had some really helpful feedback and it's coming. We're hoping to go live in April. Yeah.
And my follow-up question, very briefly, Donald and I met with Madam Mayor in May, who suggested a follow-up meeting. I did email you, but it may have gone to spam. I will resend my email, and so I'm going to ask you when you would kindly suggest a date for us to have a meeting.
You'll be happy with that, won't you? Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Moving on now on to question number 8. I invite Nigel Singh to ask a question to Councillor Schmid. Please, can you read your question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Shepherd's Bush Market Station is the gateway to Shepherd's Bush. It's the first impression that visitors get of Shepherd's Bush. The station is dilapidated and run down, and it's past its best before end. How is the council planning to work with TfL to improve the station and modernise it and make it a respectful station? Thank you.
Councillor Schmid?
Thank you, Nigel, and I'd just like to thank you for all the time that you've put into improving Uxbridge Road. It's greatly appreciated. And I completely agree that Shepherd's Bush Market is a critical station. It's the gateway to the area. And while it's owned by TfL, we have been working closely to try and get the condition improved. There's going to be some appearance improvement soon with the painting of the bridge, but obviously much more needs to be done, in particular to make it accessible for disabled people. I know from experience you can't get a pram up it. So making it more accessible as well as welcoming is a critical priority, and it is one that we are pressing TfL on and will continue to press them on. And as the Shepherd's Bush Market development happens, hopefully we can direct resources and convince TfL to also direct their resources to make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a supplementary question. One of my neighbours is disabled in a wheelchair. They can't use that station at all. Is there any plans to allow access to the platform on the ground?
Yeah, no, exactly so. Disabled people should have access to all stations, and we're up and down the borough, including at Shepherd's Bush Market. We are pushing for that. People with prams, there's a lot of people who can't use that station who should use that station, and agree that that should happen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Moving on now, question number 9. I invite Natalie Turner to ask a question to Councillor Schmid. Please, can you ask your question?
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, all. Sorry, lost my page. The residents of Uxbridge Road and the surrounding area have raised many issues regarding the street through many avenues, through many different council members over recent months. I would like to ask councillors today, what actions will the council commit to improving Uxbridge Road from a visual and accessibility perspective within the next month and the next 3 months?
Thank you very much for your question and for your interest in the future of Uxbridge Road. It is one of the borough's most important high streets, and we recognise the need to improve it from a visual, accessibility and safety perspective, and thankful of the time that residents have put in to help the council do that. In response to concerns raised, the council has developed a comprehensive action plan that covers
the activities of over 22 teams across the council. We've shared that with residents. We've had a meeting to go over it a few weeks ago. We're having another meeting tomorrow evening to go over it, continuing to update it as we develop the plan. But to answer your question, and just to pick a few things from it in the next month, things that residents will notice will be the preparatory works for the repainting of the tube bridge, decisions on a revised timed commercial waste collection, which make the street much cleaner, further removal of unnecessary street furniture to improve pedestrian space, targeted enforcement activity to reduce illegal parking, making the road safer for cyclists and pedestrians. And that will include greater patrols and enforcement of the bus lanes. And then and there'll be others, but those are just a few. And then over the next 3 months, we expect to see the visible completion of the much more welcoming bridge at Shepherd's Market Tube, increased greenery along the corridor, new rules for shopfront trading to make greater space for pedestrians, continued engagement with phone companies to press for the removal of their derelict phone boxes, hopefully seeing some of them removed in that time span, targeted law enforcement team patrols up and down the road, responding to intelligence from residents of where those patrols are most needed, and progress towards establishing a business improvement district, which would go a long way to doing things like bringing in lighting in the festive period. In addition, the council already has open investigations on more than 160 properties along Uxbridge Road. We're already seeing some of those properties make the improvements the council's asked them to make. We're engaging with them to make those improvements, but we will use our powers, including serving formal enforcement notices wherever necessary when those improvements aren't made. So collectively, it's sort of a team effort across the council. I hope we'll see a lot of improvements along the road in the next month, in the next 3 months, and into the future. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spade. Do you have a brief follow-up question?
Yeah, brief follow-up if I may. Thank you very much for that. I just wondered if there was any plans to kind of put all that in a singular document that would be publicly available, just to help with accountability, for example, as part of the local improvement plans.
The conversations will inform the local improvement plan, but the document's been shared with the Fix Uxbridge Road Committee already, and will continue to be. And I'm happy to send it to you if you give me your email address.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, question number 10. I invite Sol Udomo Herman, please, I apologise for my pronunciation, to ask the question to Councillor Cowan, Leader of the Council. No? Okay. Thank you very much. There we go. Moving now. That is the end of the public question. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and your brief supplementaries. Moving now, item number 6, committee reports, Council Tax Support Scheme 26-27. I call upon Councillor Reid to move the report and recommendations.
Formally moved.
Thank you. I've been informed, Councillor Reid, Downer Sanderson, Souslis, Painter and Kwan would like to speak. Are there any other speakers? No, thank you. Moving on. Sorry, is the report and its recommendations agreed?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Oh, I thought that was too quick. Councillor Reid, to talk.
If I may, Madam Mayor, can I reserve my right to speak until the end of the item to address any issues that are raised?
Certainly can. Councillor Downer, Sanderson. Who is that?
Us.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Sorry, I apologise.
That's okay. Madam Mayor, I want to speak in support of the Council Tax Support Scheme and to put a few important facts clearly on the record. Council tax support exists for a simple and important reason: to protect low-income residents from an unfair burden. We support that principle, and we always have. We live in a borough where many of our residents are well off, but not everyone is. There are pockets of deprivation across the borough, and it is right that support is there for those who need it. But it is important to correct the narrative that the Labour administration often pushes. Council tax support is not a Labour initiative. It was introduced here in 2013 under a Conservative-run council, when responsibility for council tax support was devolved even, from national government. At that point, councils faced a choice about how to respond locally. In this borough, the decision was clear. Conservatives designed a fair and workable scheme that protected low-income households and pensioners, and that decision remains the right one. So when the administration speaks as though this is their scheme, they are simply wrong. The support exists because Conservatives put it in place, and it is something we would retain and continue to support. The real issue for this administration is not who gets the credit, but whether they are being honest with residents about the challenges they face ahead. Council tax support does not exist in isolation. It depends on the overall financial health of the council. Yet the administration has been notably quiet about the £34 million funding gap projected for 2026-27 under the so-called fairer funding review. Residents deserve transparency about how that pressure will be managed and reassurance that support for low-income households will not be quietly eroded, whether that's going to be paid for through higher council tax or making cuts elsewhere. So we support council tax support. We introduced it locally and we would continue it if in administration. This year, the council is projecting around £14 million in council tax support, covering 10,000 households. That underlines how significant and important this scheme is and why its future matters to residents across the borough. What we're asking for is honesty, realism, and a clear plan to protect this scheme in the face of significant fiscal pressures ahead. Madam Mayor, that is the responsible debate that residents expect us to have. Thank you.
Councillor Sisters?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Politics, we all know, is about choices and it's about priorities. And when your priorities align with those of residents, that's when, well, the magic happens, really. That's what makes one popular and puts you on the path to win elections and to effect change. It's an old piece of wisdom, one that unfortunately the councillors on the opposition have forgotten over the years. So much so that to compensate, they've actually had to print it on very large Corex boards and parade them around parks in Hammersmith and Fulham in recent weeks, just to try to convince everyone that they're not completely out of sync with residents and that they share the priorities. Councillor Dana Sanderson's speech in support of the scheme is welcome, if predictable. I've definitely heard the same speech a few years in a row. But you can't keep fooling people. Not all the people, not all the time. The record doesn't lie. Having spent years in opposition, and arguably even when they were in administration, navel-gazing and being completely out of step with public opinion in Hammersmith and Fulham. It might be that it's difficult, I guess, to reconcile the priorities of local residents when your priority is to try and get into the ever-dwindling Conservative Party in Parliament. But contrast this with this administration. We've had more than a decade of austerity, a squeeze of public and private finances. In short, we've had tough times. But when the going gets tough, residents know that we are on their side. Always have been, always will be. And we've shown this time and again. I'd like to commend Councillor Ree for making it his priority once again to support the individuals and the families in a borough on lowest incomes, and to recognise the contribution and the needs of foster carers, care leavers and veterans by offering them a discount on council tax, as I'm sure my colleagues will talk about. And this is just part of a whole wider package of support for residents with the cost of living, a package that includes free home care, free breakfast for primary school children, help with the school uniforms, a hardship fund, and a dedicated cost of living team that supports residents day in, day out. And doing this, and continuing to do this over so many years, is a choice. And if you're not sure that this is a choice, if you want a glimpse of what the Conservatives' priorities are, and they would be if they run this council, all you have to do is to just look across the border. In Kensington and Chelsea, which is, as we know, run by the fellow members of the Kensington, Chelsea and Fulham Conservatives, they chose to make savings 10 years ago and go for cheaper cladding for Grenfell Tower, saving them £300,000 in the process. We all know what happened. It cost the lives of 72 people, and it's costing the council tens of millions of pounds to try and put this right. Money that could have gone to protect services and to support residents affected by the cost of living. And now, in an attempt to find savings, what is the first choice, the first priority? It's not to introduce a second home premium that can raise up to £15 million, a choice that this administration made years ago. No, the first thing they announced just a couple of weeks ago is to go straight for the poorest people in the borough, cutting the council tax support scheme, the very scheme we've chosen and will be choosing to protect in this borough. The difference in priorities and the difference in choices could not be more stark. HNF Labour, and only HNF Labour, is on the side of residents. Madam Mayor, that much is clear, even in voters in Parsons Green, when I've spent quite a bit of time in the last 2 months. Okay, shouldn't have said that, but we're just 99 days from an election. And for all we know, this could be my last speech at full council, which I know will make you very happy. If that's the case, I'm proud to have made it on an item that exemplifies that this administration listens to residents, understands residents, and support residents. And we can hold our head high when we say we are on your side. Madam Mayor, I commend the report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Painter. Councillor Painter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the joys of being a councillor, and in particular a Labour councillor in Hammersmith and Fulham, is being able to support policies that make a real difference to people's lives. In that spirit, I will speak on our ethical debt collection scheme, part of this administration's council tax support scheme, not something that was brought in by the opposition. In 2017, this Labour administration launched our ethical debt collection scheme for council tax. By changing the way we treat those who are struggling to pay their council tax, we continue to save public money, while also ending the devastating impact that the use of bailiffs and other legal proceedings can have on people who need a little help to get back on their feet, not to be treated like a criminal. Rather than referring to those who cannot pay their bill to expensive enforcement agencies, as was previously done, and these agencies cost the public purse significantly, they create stress and upset for the resident. Our ethical policy means that we support the resident with fair repayment plans, temporary payment breaks, and advice on finances, benefits, and debts. This approach, prioritising our values of compassion and financial efficiency, means that we only use the enforcement action on those who are able to pay into the system but refuse to do so. I am proud that our ethical debt collection policy will continue, once again proving this Labour administration's commitment to running a local authority in a way that is both kind and prudent. Not only does our policy save the public money, it helps break the debt doom loop that some residents find themselves in when financial stresses arrive. Whether it's a sudden job loss, illness, bereavement, or anything else that leaves otherwise law-abiding residents unable to pay their council tax bill, instead of criminalising them, this administration treats people as adults, working with them to get their finances back on track. By choosing, again, we've made that choice, to work with them, instead of bringing in expensive bailiffs and initiating court proceedings, Hammersmith and Fulham Labour has chosen to help residents get back in a position where they are able to support themselves and once again can contribute to the services that make this borough such a wonderful place to live. It's no secret that financial trouble and debts can all cause incredible distress and trauma, impacting people's mental and physical health. Individuals in debt are twice as likely to experience poor mental health, including severe anxiety and depression. Debt can also lead to insomnia and weakened immune systems, and the constant chronic stress of debt can trigger unhealthy coping mechanisms, creating a cycle that further impair financial decision-making. By choosing to support, rather than penalise residents through an already stressful time, this administration's ethical approach to council tax debt means that residents are less likely to face poor health as a result of their financial difficulties. Not only does this contribute to healthier, happier, and more productive lives, it also reduces both short and long-term pressures on local services, including those provided by the National Health Service. This policy, a Labour policy, moving into its 10th year, is one that I am therefore very pleased to speak about this evening. Residents are supported, not criminalised. The council saves money. And thirdly, the additional stresses on our health services are reduced. I believe that one of my Labour colleagues would call this a rare win-win-win, but I'm sure that we'll hear enough of his catchphrases throughout this evening. Therefore, I will of course be supporting and commending this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kwan.
Madam Mayor, firstly, can I just start by saying how pleased I am to be back in the full council after a period of medical leave, and I really did miss it. And particularly today, it's my first meeting under your mayorship. So turning to this report on our borough's council tax support scheme, every year, every council in the country has to decide what they want to do with their council tax support scheme. So every council has a responsibility and the decisions to make for its own, what they're doing in their area. Now, looking back to last year, in Hammersmith and Fulham, we were one of only 3 councils in London which offered the 100% support for households on the lowest incomes. Now, councils face a decision. Do you keep your scheme? Do you change it? Or do you scrap it? And in these financial times with pressures on our funding, more and more councils are actually choosing to reduce their schemes. And this year in Hammersmith and Fulham, I'm pleased to say that we are proposing to continue our council tax support scheme with no changes. That means that we will continue to provide 100% support for the most vulnerable residents and those on low incomes. This will give them the stability and the reassurance to help them with their financial planning. Now, let's just think about the work that goes into this decision. Despite the fact that there's no changes, that doesn't mean that we're just rolling over and putting off the same as last year. As a fiscally responsible and a ruthlessly financially efficient council, we have to go through the options. We have to consider the risks before making the commitment. The commitment we're making that despite the decrease in grant funding from the government being 54% in real terms since 2010. So this is the 14th year that we have consistently provided up to 100% support for the vulnerable residents who need it. Now, one group who we offer 100% support to are care leavers. So it's a really sad fact that children who've been in care often face really significant financial instability and problems with insecure housing and employment later in life. The period that they transition from childhood to adulthood is actually sometimes the most vulnerable. And it's also the time at which they start to become liable for a lot of financial commitments, such as council tax. So as part of the proactive work that we're doing in this area to make sure that our looked after children are supported during the vital time, our support scheme was going to play an important part to taking that burden off them whilst they establish themselves as adults and citizens of our society. The other group that we offer 100% council tax support to are foster carers. So unfortunately, foster carers who do a phenomenally important role in our society looking after children have significant financial challenges that leave them out of pocket, that aren't often taken into account for, when thinking about the financial support they receive. This contributes to a really high, unfortunately, a really high turnover rate within the sector, something that we're all trying to change. One of the things that we're doing in recognition of the challenges and the difficulties that foster parents face, what we're doing is to provide this 100% support and not adding to their burden. And as mentioned previously, this year we are also, for the first time, the only council to offer a 25% discount to our veterans, which is in recognition of the service that they perform to our country, and it's also 80 years since, it marks 80 years since VE Day. So I hope that we all support this report and recognise the work that has gone into it. Thank you to Cabinet colleagues, but also particularly council officers. And I hope that they recognise the work and the vital help it will provide to our vulnerable residents.
Thank you. And welcome back for the record. Councillor Ree.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I think about that line quite a lot when I look around London today. We're very lucky to live in the best city in the world, at perhaps a time when we've been more prosperous than ever before, at a time when technical innovation is growing quicker than it ever has done, at a time when we have some of the best entertainment, we can experience the best sport, the best art on our doorsteps. But not everyone has a chance to do that. Some people in this capital still feel like they have their noses pressed up against the window, having to choose between heating and eating, struggling to pay their bills. These are the people that this council tax support scheme is for. As we know, council tax is a regressive, archaic tax. It takes no account of a resident's ability to pay, and the bandings are based on property valuations from 35 years ago. The IFS has said that council tax is out of date, arbitrary, and highly regressive. It is ripe for reform. Now, we can't reform council tax in Hammersmith and Fulham, but through this scheme, which provides much needed support for some of our most vulnerable residents, we can make it more progressive. We believe that who pays is just as important as how much they pay, and that is what this scheme seeks to deliver. Now, I started the speech with a quote from A Tale of Two Cities, but here in West London, we very much have a tale of two boroughs. As Councillor Sousloos rightly said, although RBKC may just be next door, its approach when it comes to council tax support is 1,000 miles away. Over in RBKC, they support the cutting of council tax support while resisting introducing a second home premium. Now, in this role, I've made a point of not commenting too much on other boroughs' financial arrangements, as we never know the full circumstances behind them. As Tolstoy said, all happy councils are alike, but all unhappy councils are unhappy in their own way, or something similar to that. But it seems mad to me. It seems mad to me that a council could prioritise people wealthy enough to have a second home in one of the most expensive parts of our planet over people who struggle to find the money to pay their council tax bills. These are not Labour priorities, these are not our priorities. We will always prioritise the most vulnerable residents who need our help most of all. Councillor Kwan spoke movingly about the discounts that we provide through the council tax support scheme. We're proud not just to have maintained a comprehensive council tax support scheme, but to have expanded it, to thank those who give so much to our community. Care leavers overcome enormous hurdles to contribute to our society, and to make this a little easier, we have provided a 100% council tax discount, so they do not pay a penny. Foster carers do a remarkable job providing stable, loving homes for children who need them. We can never fully thank them for the vital work that they do, but this discount, taking them out of council tax completely, is a small mark of our thanks. Finally, our brave veterans who risk their lives to protect the peace that we enjoy. I'm delighted that we are the first council in the country to cut taxes for our military veterans to show our appreciation for their service and their sacrifice. Now, I welcome the support from Councillor Dan Sanderson for the scheme. I understand he's new, and so he probably doesn't quite understand the background to this. He's right to say that it was devolved in 2013. What he didn't say is that the funding for it hasn't been protected since that time. We've seen huge real-term cuts in our grant from central government since 2013. Not only that, we've expanded it. We've expanded it to care leavers. We've expanded it to foster carers. This year, we've expanded it to military veterans. Perhaps he can tell us at what point the previous administration gave a 100% council tax cut to care leavers. Perhaps you can tell us when you gave a 100% council tax cut to foster carers. Perhaps you can tell us when you cut council tax to military veterans. Of course you can't, because you never did it. Canvassing in Parsons Green, along with my colleague, I've met many residents who do support this scheme, even the many that are leaving the party opposite for reform. Now, Madam Mayor, this report proposes a council tax support scheme that expands our already comprehensive package, with 4 in 10 ratepayers benefiting. I've said it before and I will say it again. There is nowhere better to be a council taxpayer than right here in Hammersmith and Fulham. This scheme shows our priorities. We're looking after those who need our help most. It ensures those least able to pay the least, and I commend it to the council. Thank you very much.
Councillor Walsh, I understand you also wanted to speak.
I did indeed, Mayor. Thank you very much. Mayor, as the borough representative of the armed forces, I'm going to speak specifically to the armed forces provision on this item this evening. I'm delighted that our borough will be offering an additional 0.25% reduction on council tax for those who are eligible under the scheme. This is exactly the kind of practical step that fits with our commitment to the Armed Forces Covenant and with our support our armed forces community. Now more than ever, our armed forces are relied upon to protect our security and our freedoms. And we also know that service is never carried by just one person alone. When someone serves, the impact is felt by their partners, their children, and the wider family. This is a worthwhile measure because it recognizes the shared commitment that helps the people who have helped to protect us. Colleagues, this is not a symbolic gesture. It is real help with a real bill at a time when many residents are having to make difficult choices about their finances. And as the report mentioned, this comes at a particularly meaningful moment as we have been gathering for the VE Day 80th anniversary commemorations. Those events remind us that behind every anniversary are individual lives and families who carry the weight of service and who often for too long continue to carry it forever afterwards. If we approve this tonight, we send a clear message that Hammersmith and Fulham is continuing our commitment to the armed forces with more than just warm words. It is tangible action that people can feel, and I urge all colleagues on all sides to support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Okay. Is the report, is the report and its recommendations agreed? The recommendations are therefore carried. Moving on to item 6.2, council tax base and collection rate 2026-27 and delegation of the business rate estimate. I call upon Councillor Reid to move the report and recommendations.
Formally moved.
Okay. I've been informed Councillors Ree, Chevette-Verdier and Francis Ume would like to speak. Do you want to hold yours?
Oh, yes, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Chevette-Verdier.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And first of all, my thoughts tonight go to the women and men fighting for liberty, equality and humanity from Tehran, Caracas to Minneapolis. Tonight's item goes right to the heart of the difference a Labour administration makes. Because while the Conservative government has spent years stripping back the resources communities rely on, here in Hammersmith and Fulham, a Labour administration is choosing fairness, responsibility and community instead of the chaos and cuts that have become the Tory trademark. Let's start with 100% premium on second and empty homes. This isn't just a technical change, it reflects our values. When houses are at a premium, when families are struggling, when the Tories failed to build the homes people need, it is simply wrong for properties in our borough to sit empty or be used as occasional second homes with no consequence. So we are using the powers available to us, powers I should note that only exist because the Tories recognised that they were needed to address the problem of hollowed out communities and spiralling housing needs that they created. And let's compare ourselves with our neighbours, shall we? RBKC have chosen not to introduce this premium at all.
Instead of asking those with second homes to pay fairly, they've chosen to cut their council tax support scheme, hitting low-income residents hardest. That's the Conservative approach. Protect privilege, punish need. In H&F, we're proud to do the opposite. Here in Hammersmith and Fulham, a Labour administration is choosing to act, to choose fairness, to choose responsibility, and to choose to make better use of the housing we have. But fairness isn't just about who pays more. It's about also making sure everyone pays what they should. And that's why we're investing in smart data and modern systems to help us identify unpaid council tax, incorrect exemptions, and landlords who quietly benefit from discounts they should not be entitled to. It's what competent Labour administration looks like, one that harnesses the potential of data and the power of technology for the common good. And frankly, it's a contrast with the Conservatives, who seem increasingly unsure whether they want to oppose our policies, copy them, or just defect and complain from the sidelines. While they work out who they are this week, we're getting on with governing. This work is already paying off. Our projected collection rate for next year stands at 97%, one of the highest achievable levels for any council, reflecting how effective targeted data-led recovery can be when it's done ethically and intelligently. Using data to improve collection rates means more money for services without punishing those who can't afford it. By combining that with the new 100% premium on long-term empty and second homes, we're not just closing loopholes, but we're generating extra income to protect frontline services, tackle homelessness, and bring unused homes back into circulation for residents who need them. And keeping our council tax support scheme strong means protecting people who genuinely need help. So let me spell it out. This is H&F Labour delivering fairness. This is H&F Labour protecting residents. This is H&F Labour navigating a decade of national failure with competence, integrity, and a clear sense of duty to protect and serve people. And it's because of those values, Labour values, that I'm proud to support this item tonight. Proud to back Councillor Rui and his team for what they've delivered and what they're driving forward next. I'm proud of the council that is proving every day what Labour in power can achieve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Francis Ume.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think anyone gets into local government because they're particularly fascinated by council tax. Well, actually, I do think my colleague Councillor Rees has an above average appreciation than most for obvious reasons. But I do think most of us are here because we care deeply about the places that people call home. And the two things are, of course, very much connected. Council tax isn't the most glamorous topic in local government. No one has ever stopped me in the street to say, tell me more about your council tax strategy. What residents do stop me about is they talk about local homes, whether their children might have to move schools, and whether they'll still be living nearby in 5 years' time. Council tax is part of how we keep things steady. It's how we fund the basics and help invest in services locally. It's not exciting, but it is essential. This report shows that more homes are coming online, with around 1,220 new properties now contributing to the tax base, including 620 homes currently under construction. And as you've already heard this evening, the premium rate on second homes introduced last April is making sure homes are lived in, not left empty. A policy designed to make better use of the housing we have, to help those who are still waiting for a place to call home. Overall, this administration is building thousands of new homes. We have thousands in the pipeline. That means thousands of front doors, stable life chances, and futures that don't have to begin with uncertainty. It matters because it means fewer people are stuck waiting, fewer families in temporary accommodation, more people able to plan their lives instead of putting them on hold. We invest in homes and we're building homes with schemes such as the Aintree Estate development, which has 134 new homes, 42 new homes in Lily Road, which I had the pleasure to visit recently. The homes will meet high energy efficiency standards. There are developments in Farm Lane, Quayside Lodge and Chelsea Botanica. And at Earls Court, we're helping to bring 2,500 new homes to 40 acres of land that's been empty for a number of years. This administration believes in council housing because we've seen what secure homes can do. And as far as council tax is concerned, we offer discounts for care leavers, foster carers, and now veterans for the first time, as well as special guardians. Deliberate choices to support those who give so much to our community. Our borough continues to grow. As mentioned, with more than 1,000 new homes coming into the tax base this year, by charging premiums on second homes and long-term empty properties, we're ensuring housing is used for local people, not left vacant. Our ethical debt approach has strengthened collection while protecting vulnerable residents, and we continue to fully fund council tax support for those who need it most. These changes increase our tax base responsibly, fairly, and in line with our commitment to social justice, so we as an administration can continue to make a difference where it matters most. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I start, I'd like to thank Nicola, Ashley, Jamie, Kirsty, and the whole of the Revenue and Benefits team for producing these reports. As Councillor Ume has pointed out, this administration's record on house building is really paying a dividend when it comes to our council tax base, not only providing much needed new homes for residents, but also £3.5 million to contribute to our general fund. And with 13,117 new homes in the pipeline, this is only likely to increase, providing new homes for people who need them. Councillor Chevok-Verdier is absolutely right to note the increased collection rate. Now, this has come from a great deal of hard work, utilising AI and data analysis to identify households that had not previously been paying, but who do need to contribute to our coffers. It has also come from residents being better placed to pay than they have been in the past as a result of the ethical debt collection policy that Councillor Painter discussed earlier, treating residents like adults, as she said, not like criminals. Of all the good things that we are doing, this is the thing that has sparked the most interest from my counterparts at other councils. I've lost count of the number of them who've come to me to discuss our approach to ethical debt collection, and they all ask the same question. Won't this affect your council tax collection rate? Well, the answer is yes, it does. We've collected more. By helping residents who are struggling to keep on top of their bills, identifying benefits that they may be entitled to and pointing them in the direction of financial advice, we put their finances on a more secure, stable, sustainable footing and put them into a position to pay their council tax and other bills now and for years to come. Why waste resources taking somebody without the means to pay to court when, with a helping hand, they can pay the full amount that they owe and then continue to do so for many years to come? I'm glad that the Labour government has recognised the benefits of our approach and is consulting on changes to council tax collection rules, which would replicate elements of this scheme throughout the country. Madam Mayor, my approach to tax, something that I stay up late at night thinking about, as Councillor Ume says, is that it should be simple, it should be fair, and it should be low. While we can't do anything about the outdated mechanism of council tax, we do have a record to be proud of. We have the third lowest council tax rates in the country. We have expanded our council tax support scheme that supports 4 in 10 residents, meaning those least able to pay the least. And for those who cannot pay, we provide help and advice to get their finances back on track. I have said it before, and I will say it again. There is nowhere better to be a council taxpayer than right here in Hammersmith and Fulham. Thank you very much.
Is the report and its recommendations agreed? The recommendations are therefore carried. Moving now, item number 6.3, Council Calendar of Meetings 2026-27. I call upon the leader, Councillor Cowan, to move the report and recommendations.
Fully moved.
Is the report and its recommendations agreed? Item 6.4, review of the Constitution. I call upon the leader, Councillor Cowan, to move the report and recommendations.
Formally moved.
Is the report and its recommendations agreed? Okay. The recommendations are carried. Item 6.5, annual report of the Audit Committee. I've been informed Councillor Walsh would like to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm speaking on this item this evening as the chair of the Audit Committee. So I am pleased to speak on this item as for the annual report for the Audit Committee for the municipal year of 24-25, covering the period from May 24 through to April 25. Before I touch on the substance of the issue, I do want to begin with thanks. Audit is not a particularly glamorous item. It is unlikely to make the front page news, at least I hope. It's never a good thing if it does. But it is fundamental. It underpins the confidence that we have in the council's governance. It goes to the heart of our value of ruthless financial efficiency in Hammersmith and Fulham, and it speaks to our internal controls and how we manage risk on behalf of residents. Our audit committee can only do its job because of the quality and professionalism of the officers that support it. So I want to thank some of those who have supported the committee in the last year. I want to obviously give thanks to Sukhvinder, David Hughes, Maura Mackey, Debbie Yao, our committee coordinator, as well as to the senior leadership team of the council, and also to our external partner in Grant Thornton, who have regularly attended our meetings and provided timely and efficient updates to the committee as well. I also want to thank members of the committee for their commitment and for the serious and diligent way that they've approached the role in the last year, including Councillor Nimmo, Councillor Pascal-Tilbury, Councillor Morton, and Councillor Homan. I'm grateful to you guys for all the work that you've done and the scrutiny that you've provided. And I also want to thank and also welcome Charlotte Moore, who has recently joined our committee as the independent member and has brought with her a wealth of experience and knowledge to this new role. I also want to thank Councillor Ree for his regular attendance at the committee. It's been brilliant to have somebody like yourself to come regularly to the committee and to answer any additional questions that we may have had at our meetings. Mayor, this report is important because it demonstrates that the Audit Committee is doing exactly what it's intended to do, to robustly and consistently scrutinise the governance and financial reporting and make sure that we are a lean and improved and strong, resilient council. To name some of our great successes of the year, firstly, during the year, the committee noticed the external quality assessment against the public sector and internal audit standards, which achieved the highest ranking, which is a mark of professionalism and quality. Secondly, the strong assurance and the real follow-through on recommendations. The head of the internal audit noted that we have an 89% compliance rate with all of the recommendations, and substantive work has been made towards the remaining outstanding items. This goes to show that through the dedication, commitment, and engagement with our senior management, that audit produces real action, not just more reports. And I think that is something to really bear in mind, that audit is something that our chief executive and the senior leadership team have really taken seriously in every aspect of this council. Third is the very positive position of the external auditor who've quantified our accounts. The committee notes obviously that Grant Thornton continued to find the accounts supporting the working papers to a very high standard. I don't think it gets spoken about enough, so I'm going to take the time to shout it out. There has been a massive backlog in the audit sector for annual accounts, which has meant that many councils have ended up having to use a backstop to catch up. This is not the case in Hammersmith and Fulham. Working productively and efficiently with Grant Thornton has meant that we are up to date with our annual accounts. By not having to use this backstop, it has meant that residents in our borough can be confident in how their money has been used and that the local council is on a sound financial footing. Mayor, taken together, these are real signs of progress, a high quality work of audit, strong assurance, and improving external audit findings, and a culture of implementing recommendations and strengthening governance and always following best practice. So once again, I'd like to thank the officers, I'd like to thank the external auditors, members of the committee, and to Charlotte as well for joining us recently this year. So members, I hope that you will support tonight's report for noting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is the report noted?
Madam Mayor, under Standing Order 16D3, I move that the special motions be taken in the following order: 5, 4, 7, 1, 6, 2, and 3.
Is the motion agreed? Right. I put the motion to the, oh, I don't need to. Right, okay, that's it. Moving on then to special motion number 5. H&F Upstream Pathway Bond. I call on councillors Zara Quest-Payem and Helen Rowbottom to move and second.
Formally moved.
Formally seconded.
Okay, I called on councillor Quayem and Rowbottom to speak to the administration for the administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proud to move and speak on this motion because it's about turning growth into real opportunities for the young people of this borough. Madam Mayor, the best way to predict the future is to create it. There are moments when councils and the governments must decide whether to simply manage change or shape it. This Labour administration has chosen to shape it. The world is moving at an extraordinary speed. Industries are transforming, technology is redefining work, entire sectors are being created, while others fade away. And in the middle of that transformation are the young people of Hammersmith and Fulham, ambitious, talented, determined, asking where will be their place in these new economies. Today, we answer that question with confidence. The Upstream London Bond is not just another initiative. It is a structural and a firm commitment to ensure that our borough grows and our young people grow with it. Since the launch of our industrial strategy and its second phase, Upstream London, 0.3 billion inward investment, more than 17,200 new jobs in the high growth sectors. We are now the fastest growing local economy in London. But let us be absolutely clear. Growth on paper means nothing if it does not translate into opportunity on our streets. The Pathway Bond is how we make that translation real. It connects education to employment. It links classroom to cutting-edge industries. It ensures that investment flowing into this borough does not simply pass through, but shapes the long-term future of this borough. Our 109 businesses, 26 schools, world-class institutions, including Imperial College London and Imperial College NHS Trust, are cooperative growth partners from around the world. This is not a symbolic collaboration, it's a practical cooperation. It's a shared commitment, building visible, structured pathways for local young people into life sciences, digital technologies, green industries, advanced healthcare, and creative economy. Because for too long, young people in many communities have been told opportunities exist. They can't see it, they can't reach it, can't access it. We're changing that. We're building a clear line of sight from aspiration to achievement. A student in Y City should be able to see a future in biotech. A young person in Shepherd's Bush should be able to see a pathway into digital innovation. A teenager in Fulham should know that the fastest growing industries in London are not distant, they're here. The Pathway Bond embodies something fundamental about this borough. We believe in economic development. We believe economic development must be inclusive. We believe partnership is stronger than isolation. We believe long-term prosperity is built deliberately, not left to chance. We believe partnership is stronger than isolation. We believe long-term prosperity is, The council has not waited for others to design the future for us. We've convened businesses, leaders, educators, healthcare pioneers, global partners, and we've built a model that other places will look to. We have over 100 businesses committed to opening doors for young people. When schools step forward to align learning and real-world opportunities, when anchor institutions work hand in hand and their local authority, that signals confidence. confidence in our borough, confidence in our direction, confidence that Hammersmith Fulham is serious about inclusive growth. The pathway bond is just not about today's investment figure. It's about tomorrow's engineers, scientists, coders, healthcare professionals, and entrepreneurs. It is about ensuring talent born in this borough does not have to leave this borough to succeed. It is about turning economic momentum into generation change. In a rapidly changing world, standing still is not an option. This council has chosen ambition. We have chosen partnerships. We have chosen to make growth work for our residents. And most importantly, we've chosen to back our young people, not with words, but pathways. This is something worth supporting. This is something worth celebrating. And this is something this council should stand proudly behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rowbottom. Councillor Rowbottom.
Thank you, Mayor. When we set out on our industrial strategy back in 2016, it aspired to inclusive economic growth in a borough where, as we know, wealth and poverty live side by side. Opportunity doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen just by proximity. Opportunity needs a broker, a mechanism, a network, and a vision to galvanise and connect it to those who otherwise wouldn't have access. Upstream London, the council's engine room to make things happen around our industrial strategy, is this broker. And Pathway Bonds is the council's pledge to pay it forward to our young people when the global economy is frankly stacked against them. It's about giving them permission to ask for what they want and to meet their ambition with incredible options. It's about being able to say to the parents of this borough, we know that you are fiercely ambitious for your kids, and we will give them the opportunities that you didn't have. Our young people can now sign up to work experience and mentoring at world-class institutions and businesses in our borough, L'Oreal, Novartis, the BBC. And these businesses that sign up to the Pathway Bonds, 109 and counting, deepen their roots in the borough and broaden their talent pipeline. It makes something of what I think is London at its best, a global trading intersection and a melting pot for different walks of life. Years ago, a member of the Novartis C-suite spoke at one of our schools, and he was wowed by a Year 8 student who asked him about recent market shocks in the economy and how it had impacted the supply chain. I'm so pleased to see that Novartis are now signed up with a tangible offer for these bright kids. I also, as part of this role, met the outgoing Vice President of MIT, who said that the most important lesson, candidly, that he'd learned from creating Innovation District Kendall Square was that they didn't build inclusive growth from the get-go and that it was almost impossible to reverse. Before I was a councillor, I worked in the council's policy team, and there's a statistic from 2016 in the early days of shaping our industrial strategy that's really stayed with me. Some of the best GCSE results in the borough were from young people in and around White City, but this didn't translate into them pursuing further education. And there are complex things behind this. There's a family's ability to pay, caring duties, and seeing other people that they know go to university. But here's the change in another statistic. John Anderson, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Imperial, keeps a keen eye on how many young people from the White City estate apply to and get into Imperial. There were no applications for 30 years before Imperial arrived in White City. There are now 15 to 20 a year, with half of those people, young people, offered a place. And he added sorely that a couple of the kids ended up rejecting Imperial to go to Cambridge. John said that applications notably hit an exponential rate after the invention rooms were set up, a community space in White City offering free events and programs to young people led by Imperial faculty and students, absolutely world class. So Pathway Bonds tackle one of the most intractable issues in public life, achieving equality of opportunity, and their success has inspired national policy. At a launch event that we were at for Pathway Bonds in Westminster last year, MP Darren Jones said that Hammersmith and Fulham is a case study for our governments. They've developed a model which works through the ability to have people come together in a local place, connecting institutions and people, and we need to learn from their success. We want the work that we're doing to be the blueprint for local government, creating porous boredoms in ecosystems to ensure that the benefits of growth are felt locally as well as globally. It's a cornerstone of the Innovation District Conference that we'll be hosting here in March, joined by an alliance of like-minded leaders. I'm so proud to have been a part of a Labour administration that does extraordinary, bold things over and above the day job of local governments, that seizes upon an idea and follows it through to delivery, and that is shrewd enough to harness the borough's assets and create this win-win situation. Pathway bonds are changing the course of young people's lives, and they so deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been informed that Councillor Alzel Khan and Francis Ume, Lang and Trehe would also like to speak. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. The upstream pathway bond is presented as a headline achievement of this administration's industrial strategy. I want to welcome its ambition, linking our schools and young people with the businesses in the booming White City Innovation District. We all share the goal of helping our students and finding routes into the life sciences, tech, and media sectors that are growing on their doorsteps. Indeed, the council's own figures claim that upstream London has attracted £6.3 billion of investment and created over 17,200 jobs. Yet, behind the smokescreen of these impressive sounding headline figures, serious questions remain. The administration consistently avoids the most critical question: who are these jobs for? Are they for the residents of our social housing and the families struggling with the cost of living? Or are they for commuters who take their high-tech salaries elsewhere? Without a mandatory audit of local resident hiring, that 17,200 figure is little more than a vanity metric. It tells us the borough is growing, but not necessarily that our residents are prospering. I want the pathway bond to be more than just a badge on a corporate website. I'm supporting this motion tonight because the upstream concept has the potential to deliver something valuable if it is designed with more rigor. I'm making 3 constructive suggestions that I hope the administration will take on board. First, we need transparency on outcomes. We need to know the pathway success rate. Exactly how many students move from a pathway bond placement into a full, permanent local apprenticeship or job. Without tracking these results, we are celebrating a temporary experience rather than a lifelong career. Second, Madam Mayor, we must ensure borough-wide inclusivity. The council claims 26 schools have signed up. We need a clear plan to ensure that a student in Fulham and Sandsend has the same access to these elite industries as one living in the shadow of White City. Finally, we must support our SMEs. While global giants have large HR departments, our small and medium-sized local businesses often lack the capacity to mentor or manage apprentices. We should use the £0.3 million funding development fund to provide the administrative support these SMEs need to hire our young residents. I agree with the spirit of this motion, and I sincerely hope the administration will take these suggestions on board to deliver the results our young people from north to the south of the borough truly deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ume?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Potential is everywhere, opportunity is not. The Hammersmith and Fulham Pathway Bond is changing and challenging that, so that opportunity meets potential wherever it may be that north, central, or south of the borough. The bond is an initiative designed to connect schools and local young people with businesses, creating clear pathways into careers in science, technology, engineering, maths, medicine, and media. It's part of the borough's wider pioneering industrial strategy, Upstream London, which has attracted £6.3 billion worth of business investment into the borough and has created more than 17,000 jobs for the people of the borough. This phase of our strategy takes our ambition to achieve inclusive economic growth to the next level, to unlock potential for the people across the entire borough. The bond is designed to create stronger, sustainable links between education, skills, and employment, providing young people with opportunities to develop their skills and local businesses the chance to build diverse and highly skilled workforces. Through the Pathway Bond, we have commitment from 109 local businesses and 26 schools to provide opportunities for young people in cutting-edge industries, a commitment to jobs, fair wages, and future-ready skills. By signing up, they're pledging to support this community. We know there are parts of this borough where young people start out with fewer options. That doesn't say anything about their ability. It says something about the chances they've been given. Growing up in White City, considered a tough, rough working class area, I personally dreamt beyond what seemed possible at the time, but I really couldn't see many pathways laid out before me. And I'm actually not surprised to hear at all my colleague, Councillor Helen Rowbottom, talk about some of the top GCSE performers coming from White City. Big up White City. I mean, and that's why this is really important, because when someone opens a door at the right moment, a whole life can change. Life chances change lives. When we invest in young people, we gain neighbours, leaders, workers, and role models. We don't just change an individual's life, we change our collective future with a stronger workforce, safer communities, local pride, and generational change. Perhaps if that side of the chamber bothered to read the information or attend any of the events that they've been invited to directly, they would actually hear from the people impacted. At the recent parliamentary launch, I met former Hammersmith and Fulham pupils, including Mariam and Lily, who spoke highly of how the Pathway Bond had made a difference in their lives. They shared how the powerful experience has given them a real taste of the industries they hope to lead in the future. The programme had built confidence, developed skills like teamwork and communication, and showed companies the value that young people like them could bring. Mariam from Fulham Cross Girls Academy said it opened her eyes to the opportunities in life sciences that are here in Hammersmith and Fulham. And she was so inspired that she already signed up for more work in green tech. Our leader, Councillor Steve Cowan, has been instrumental in the development of this industrial strategy and giving people a clearer pathway into new careers and opportunities for all to grow and thrive. Pathway bonds turn that potential into power. They're a promise that talent will be recognised, nurtured and backed today and always. They promise a fair start, and sometimes that's all it takes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lang.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I wish to speak briefly in support of this special motion on Hammersmith and Fulham's upstream pathway bond. Young people, the generation severely affected by our recent pandemic, deserve the best we can give them. And they need opportunities, hope and optimism, as all of us in this chamber have had in our lives. If you look recently internationally in countries ranging from South Korea to Madagascar, from Bangladesh to Nepal and Iran, young people, Generation Z, have been behind and influencing change. You can see that with young people nationally here in the UK and locally in Hammersmith and Fulham. And really, what better example perhaps than the Youth Council that come every year to speak to us here and act so well within the community. The Hammersmith and Fulham Upstream Pathway Bond is one important, unique and powerful way in which we in Hammersmith and Fulham, the Labour administration, are giving young people a ladder up to success. Mayor, can I take you back to just yesterday at the Polish Centre in King Street, where many gathered for the Holocaust Memorial Day, organised by Hammersmith and Fulham Council. It was entitled Bridging Generations, and it certainly did that. Amongst superb speakers, we witnessed young people from a wide range of Hammersmith and Fulham schools on stage speaking and reciting poetry, many visibly nervous, like I am, speaking here tonight, against a backdrop of lit candles delivered with sensitivity and emotion, reminding us actually of the power of the human voice. I also remember our last full council meeting, Mayor, congratulating young people, their families, their teachers and staff for their outstanding academic performance. So with the Hammersmith and Fulham Upstream Pathway Bond, we are aiming high for all our young people. The Chief Executive of West Youth Zone in White City, a project I have spoken about before in this chamber, calls the Hammersmith and Fulham initiative a recipe for success. The executive principal of Fulham Cross Academy says the Pathway Bond initiative is an opportunity for local businesses to transform the lives of young people in the local area. So our part, new work experience schemes, apprenticeships and jobs, high quality new tech study spaces, mentoring programs, placements, not just in Hammersmith and Fulham, but across the UK and abroad, access to training, advice and support, including job interviews, techniques, CV and job search advice, something as a young man I never had. And I'm not sure, though, thinking on this, what Nigel Farage and Reform offer to young people. Proclaiming negatively every day about broken Britain, playing that old card, tell a lie, tell it big, and tell it often. And what about the disjointed Conservative opposition and the rejigged Tory opposition here in Hammersmith and Fulham? What do they offer young people and their families in Hammersmith and Fulham? So I fully support this motion and look to Hammersmith and Fulham Labour again to offer positive opportunities, hope for our young people and our community. Thank you.
Councillor Trehew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for letting me speak on this very important motion. I grew up on Duquesne Road and went to Old Oak and then Burlington Danes School. I didn't really know what I wanted to do or was able to do. My careers teacher asked a couple of questions and then thought a moment and confidently advised me to become a traffic warden. Now, nothing wrong with that career line, but whatever mangled algorithm she used to come up with that career for a 16-year-old me, I'll never know. But in those days, the only famous big employer locally was the BBC. But to me and my schoolmates, the walls of the BBC were as high as the Wormwood Scrubs prison. Metaphorically and literally, they were impenetrable. Only the most privileged, those that graduated from the lofty colleges of Oxbridge or those with mummy and daddy contacts, could breach those ramparts. There were no openings for local people, none. What I actually aspired to do was work in the theatre. I was lucky enough to see Evita in the first run. It was soaring, beautiful, sublime. I was hooked. But I didn't know anyone in theatre. I had no connections, no guidance, no way in. There was no route, no access, no pathway. As the saying goes, Bob Hope and no hope. Now, don't worry, the theatre world didn't lose a great talent. My complete inability to hold a note would have paid to any gleeful ambition. But maybe if I'd got my nose through the door, I might have found the costume department or lighting or stage design or set building. I might still have tread the boards, you know, who knows? And that is what the Pathway Bond is exactly about. It opens the doors of opportunity to every one of our amazing young people. The council, this Labour council, brings together schools and big businesses. It takes young people to a place that speaks to their aspirations. BBC, ITV, Disney, Lambda, employers I could only dream about. The Pathway Bond ensures ambition, not privilege, determines who gets ahead. Our young people will have access to work experience, apprenticeships, mentoring, real jobs in the industries of the future, be invited to attend interactive events focused on the newest STEM routes, science, technology, engineering, maths, medicine, and media, and access to informed, ambitious careers and skills, advice, and training. It is so obvious once you see it. But you only get this type of bold, innovative, inclusive, genuinely transformative policy under this Labour administration. An administration that here in Hammersmith and Fulham founded the now globally recognised White City Innovation District with Imperial College London. We've supported hundreds of startups through our unique inclusive economic strategy, Upstream London. These are businesses in the hottest industries, and we are now #1 borough in London for economic growth. And our promise to young people is simple. Whatever your dream, Labour in Hammersmith and Fulham will make sure you get a chance to try. Whether you want to cure cancer, save the planet, be an engineer, an architect, or an actor. And who knows, you might go on to be the next Evita. That is what opportunity looks like. That is what a Labour administration delivers.
Well done. Are there any other speakers? Any other speakers? No. Okay. Did I miss anyone? No, there you go. I now call on Yeah, no, oh, sorry. Did someone else want to? Oh. There you go. I call on Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, again. This motion, as you mentioned, the outcome, I'll go through that, some of the outcomes. I think probably you had some idea of what because you sit on the boards on the, I think the young people, care experience young people board or something. But anyway, I'll go through that. The motion is the proof of delivery, Madam Mayor. Under the Labour administration, inclusive growth is not a slogan. It's a policy in action. We're ensuring that prosperity shaping our borough creates real pathway for our young residents. And the evidence is, for your information, this year alone, more than 2,000 meaningful encounters between employers and students have taken place in our borough. Our 500 young people have walked through the doors of Imperial College research, chemistry labs, firsthand experience the industries that are shaping the future. Students are undertaking placement with Imperial NHS Trust. Apprenticeships are being secured in STEM employers, which is science, technology, engineering, maths, media, and medicine employers right here in Hammersmith, Fulham. These are not abstract ambitions. These are real experiences, real access points, real outcomes. More than 100 employers in 26 schools have committed to this program. That is a powerful coalition. Education, business, healthcare, and anchor institution align around one shared goal, building clear pathway for local talent. And crucially, Upstream Bond is designed with inclusion at its heart. Care experienced young people are receiving dedicated employability support and achieving qualifications. Neurodiverse and learning disabled young residents are accessing supporting employment pathways. Primary school pupils are being introduced early to the world of work because aspiration shouldn't start at 16. This is not a narrow initiative, it's a borough-wide ecosystem of opportunity. We're aiming to deliver 200 work placements this academic year. But more importantly, we're building a structure that will grow year on year. Madam Mayor, in our borough, attracting billion in investment and leading London economic growth, our responsibility is clear. Growth must not sit behind glass. It must not feel distant. It must be reachable. The pathway bond ensures that a young person growing up in White City, Shepherd's Bush, Hammersmith, can look at the crans, the campuses, the laboratories, and the studios around them and know that there's a route inside, not by chance, not by connection, but by design. This is what Pathway Bond represents. It's practical, it's inclusive, it's ambitious, and it is already delivering. Madam Mayor, tomorrow is truly made here under this Labour administration. For those reasons, I commend this motion.
Thank you. Is the motion agreed? Thank you. I declare that the motion is carried. Moving on. Pages. Okay. Moving on to special motion number 4, the Civic Campus. I call on councillors Liam Downer Sanderson and Jose Alfonso to move and to second.
Formally moved.
Formally seconded.
I call on councillors Downer Sanderson and Alfonso to speak for the opposition.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the opening of the Civic Campus approaches, residents can expect a major communications push from the administration. But beyond the glossy messaging sits an uncomfortable truth. This project has become a vanity scheme, delivered years late and over budget. The Civic Campus was originally expected to be completed around 2023. We are now approaching an opening 3 years late. Over that period, costs have escalated steadily, with the council repeatedly returning to Cabinet to approve revised budgets, further capital allocations, and additional borrowing. The result is clear. Tens of millions of pounds have been taken directly from the council's own capital account year after year. When construction, refurbishment, fit-out financing, and associated works are properly accounted for, the total cost is approaching and may well exceed £200 million. This was funded significantly by taxpayer money, money that could have been spent on housing repairs, cleaner streets, safer roads, and frontline services. Residents are entitled to know how a project of this scale was allowed to drift so far off course. And then there's the building itself. The Civic Campus now sits on the river, interrupting one of the most sensitive and distinctive views in the borough. It stands among the Georgian terraces that define the Hammersmith riverside and give this area its historic charm. Instead of sitting quietly in that setting, the building is dominated by a postmodern clock tower finished in a stark red colour, drawing the eye away from its surroundings and disrupting the townscape. All that said, I'm sure the leader's office will be nice and spacious. But with the May elections around the corner, I would not get too comfortable. Now, for the most telling comparison of all, the sums now being discussed for the Civic Campus are strikingly similar to the estimated cost of repairing Hammersmith Bridge. When the Conservative government secured a funding deal to reopen the bridge, under which this council would have been responsible for around a third of the cost, the administration said it did not have the money. That decision has had consequences. Bus routes remain diverted. Emergency vehicles are forced onto longer routes. Local roads are clogged with traffic. Patients struggle to reach local hospitals like Charing Cross. Children face journeys to school that take far longer than they should. This was not a minor inconvenience. It affected lives on both sides of the river. Yet when faced with a choice, this administration said there was no money for a bridge that connects communities and keeps West London moving. But there was money for a vanity civic campus. Let me put it to you like this. Ask residents whether they would rather have their tax money pay for a new town hall or to have reopened Hammersmith Bridge. I am confident where public opinion lies, and I suspect you know where it is too. That is why we are making residents' priorities our mission. That is why we have set out a plan to get traffic moving over Hammersmith Bridge. We believe in pragmatic solutions that reconnect communities, cut journey times, and put residents and the borough first. This side of the chamber is focused on delivery. Labour has been focused on big, shiny projects. And residents are paying the price. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, what a fantastic speech from Councillor Downer-Sanderson. Fantastic. Madam Mayor, the Civic Campus project stands as a monument. Ah, the heckling, Madam Mayor. They're getting nervous. You getting nervous? Ah. Madam Mayor, the Civic Campus stands as a monument, not to civic pride, but to the administrative failure of this Labour administration. What was once promised as a forward-thinking investment in our borough has become a cautionary tale of mismanagement and escalating costs. As Councillor Downer-Sanderson so aptly put, it's already 3 years late. 3 years. 3 years of construction costs skyrocketing. But this was not an unforeseen and natural disaster. This was a failure of project management and political oversight. Now, Councillor Downer-Sanderson has already alluded that this is going to cost in excess of 200 million. Now, how much of that was overspent? Just imagine how much better use that money could have been made. And Madam Mayor, what a monument it is. It's a big, red, postmodern monument to socialism. It draws the eye, not in admiration, but in jarring contrast to everything around it. Madam Mayor, this motion does not ask the impossible. It simply asks for transparency. It asks the administration to set out clearly how costs have escalated so dramatically. It asks them to explain why the project is 3 years late. It asks them to take account for decisions that committed hundreds of millions of pounds of public money. We're not asking for much. We're asking for the truth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I would like to give notice of an amendment. Has the amendment been circulated?
Oh.
Checking now.
Has been amended. Yeah.
Is that so
Okay.
Members check that.
Okay. Can I ask the members to check their emails, please? The motion will be displayed on the screen for people to read. Okay.
Is it up? Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to pause for a few minutes to give people the opportunity to read the motion.
Do you have enough time for everything? Thank you.
That first one is.
Yeah.
Just the margin. There you go.
You're in good company. Cover it from cover. I think you're in good company. Yes. I think we all are. So I was going to bring a mask with me.
Okay, I call upon Councillor Holman and Antonides to move and second the amendment.
Formally moved.
Formally seconded.
I call on Councillor Holman, followed by Councillor Antonides to speak for the administration.
Thank you, Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to amend this motion this evening. I especially wanted to speak about this as the audacity of the Conservatives to criticise the civic campus scheme after what this Labour council inherited beggars belief. Granted, the mover and the seconder of the motion have not been around very long, but it's very naive of you not to check the facts and to check with some of your colleagues who do know the history on this. Hammersmith Town Hall is more than a building. It is the civic heart of our borough. And what has happened to it and to so many of our public assets tells a very clear story about the choices made by the previous Conservative administration and the very different choices made by this Labour one. Let's be absolutely honest. The Conservatives' records on our public buildings is appalling. Whilst pushing their deeply unpopular 2010 Town Hall redevelopment scheme of towering blocks, a giant supermarket and a footbridge slicing through Furnivall Gardens, one of our valuable green spaces, in a setting of our Grade 2 listed town hall, they were simultaneously selling off assets across the borough. Take Fulham Town Hall. Once the proud civic venue, it was earmarked for sale in 2011, bundled into a mass sell-off of public buildings. Despite fierce protests from the community, the Conservatives argued that it was underused. They sold it for £10 million. One house alone in the surrounding streets could fetch at that time £2 million. How is that a good deal for the public purse? By the 27th of October 2010, when the last full council meeting was held in Fulham Town Hall, it still is not in public use today, 15 years later. At that 2010 council meeting, there were a number of residents there to object to the sell-off of another public building, the Sands End Community Centre. The meeting was so stuffed with protesters and people wanting to listen to the debate that we had to have 2 sittings. Almost 7,000 residents signed a petition against that to turn it into luxury housing, but the Conservatives just pushed it ahead anyway. Now compare that to Labour. When Labour took control of Hammersmith and Fulham, we scrapped the discredited Conservative Town Hall redevelopment and started again, this time with residents. We were ruthlessly inclusive, engaging, involving disabled residents, local groups, young people and community organisations. It went to planning with no public objections and with unanimous approval. Instead of the overshadowing the town hall, Labour is restoring, respecting its heritage, opening it up and placing it at the very centre of a modern civic campus. Instead of a supermarket, tower blocks and destruction of Furnivall Gardens, we are delivering a cinema, an art gallery, performance spaces, youth facilities, community rooms, a rooftop cafe, a vibrant new public square and high quality affordable homes. As for the costs of the project, this has been going on through Brexit, through COVID, which have had a major impact on construction projects across the UK, bringing a shortage of labour and a shortage of materials. Since 2016, across the UK, material costs have gone up by 60%. And labour costs by 35%. So yes, the costs have increased, but by nowhere near those levels. So let's be clear, the Conservatives sold off our heritage, closed our community centre and tried to impose overdevelopment on our borough. Labour listened. worked with residents, protected our history, rebuilt our civic space, and restored pride in our public places. I am very excited that the Civic Centre will be opening later this year, and it will stand as the strongest possible proof that Labour has a vision. Labour builds a community. Labour does things with people, not to them. The Conservatives who sell things off on the cheap, fail to listen to residents, have no vision and have no plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Antonides.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Homan. I think you've very much summed up the financial side of things. So I'm not going to dwell on that, because actually, how can we compare the fixing of the bridge to a civic campus? There is a whole lot more heart in a civic campus, a whole lot more brief. And this is ridiculous comparison. So I'm just going to celebrate here the merits of what we have proposed and the vision that we have here as a Labour administration on the civic campus. Actually, I'm delighted that you brought it up as a motion, because we have this opportunity to celebrate something that we are all going to be extremely proud of and can't wait to move into, including the accommodations that you will, hopefully, some of you will be moving into as well. And mark my words, you will be a lot happier in there. So thank you very much. The Civic Campus is a cohesive collection of buildings that is an embodiment of our ambitions and forward-looking administration, which has an interest in the community at its core. In the words of Councillor Cowan, it will be a beautiful, environmentally positive and accessible new quarter where people can live, work, play and relax. This is no ordinary collection of buildings. It is an exemplary example of how ambition and vision, through careful collaboration and considered choice of design team, has manifested a master plan that embodies our ethos and all that this administration stands for: inclusivity, creativity, growth, kindness, community, biodiversity, and connection that extends further than our borough boundaries. Our civic campus is going to be a cultural hotspot and a collaboration that the borough will connect us both economically and culturally throughout the capital and beyond. How has this ambition been realised as a place above and beyond the ordinary? A key ingredient was working collaboratively with the community, choosing a quality architect to inform a multifaceted, inclusive design, a design that will enable continued creativity, ideas and economic growth. It is the last major realised design by local architect Richard Rogers, and the most accessible building of its type, developed with extensive involvement of disabled residents and industry-leading advisors. Co-production has been a central part of the design from the outset, and a group of local design commissioners and a dedicated disabled residents team are employed. We all know that when we design inclusively, it benefits all of us. And these residents will see the design all the way through until the completion to tick it off and sign it off, and remain an active part of the team and review the finished building and the operation of the campus once opened. And it embodies our environmental policy of us to strive to be the greenest borough in London. Site-wide heating and cooling is provided from ground source heat pumps, solar panels, and uses 236 deep water wells to draw water out of the underlying chalk aquifer, a below-ground reservoir. I will go on now to describe the elements of the master plan that coexist to make this whole building that will be a delight for all. We have a new public square, Unity Square, enabled by the demolition of the previous extension in front. In the midst of all this, this is in the midst of restaurants and has unveiled the original Grade 2 town hall face. The refurbished town hall, with its new rooftop extension and to include a sky park with a restaurant and multiple event spaces, have invested in the original town hall to avoid future liabilities and to protect the community's heritage. We have 3 housing blocks. More than 50% of these are affordable homes and 204 private homes for local people. This is in stark contrast to what the Conservatives had proposed previously and were wanting to sell to overseas investors. I'm particularly partial to the delightful design features of the winter gardens in the affordable homes, where in 0 degrees.
That's enough.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't get to the end there.
No.
Okay.
Are there any other speakers? Any other speakers to the amendment? Thank you very much. Do you want to do it now, or would you like to speak after I've got? There you go. I thought so. Right. Councillor Nimmo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, it won't surprise you to know that recently I was out canvassing. Not this time in Parsons Green, but in Aspen Gardens, nonetheless, just off King Street, a few miles down the road, a few minutes down the road from where we are tonight. It was one of those evenings you'll always remember. I knocked on a door and made the usual ask, is there anything I can help with or any local issues? And the resident said, well, there's too many people living on our flat, but we've actually just been handed the new keys to our home in the Civic Campus. And what struck me wasn't just they were pleased, it was the look of absolute glee in their eyes, the relief and the joy. Lolita Roy is the newest residential building here in Hammersmith Broadway and a central part of our new Civic Campus development, a development that's shaping the future of King Street and the heart of our borough here in the jewel of the crown that is Hammersmith Broadway. For too long, town centres have been in decline. Civic space was something we used to do, not something we could believe in. The Civic Campus proves the opposite. It shows that with ambition, good design and the right values, we can genuinely rejuvenate our high streets and put people back in the centre of them. That's why it matters so much that 50% of the homes in the development are affordable, not as an afterthought, not as a token gesture, but as a statement of intent that Hammersmith and Fulham is a place for everyone, a place for people who could contribute to this borough can afford to live in it. And it doesn't stop at housing. The Civic Campus brings with it a new public square, Unity Square, a genuinely opening, welcoming space, new restaurants and cafes to bring life back to King Street, a sky park that give residents and visitors green space in the middle of a dense urban environment, and all of it delivered with world-class design by Richard Rogers, one of the greatest architects of Civic London. Just as importantly, this is one of the most accessible buildings of its type because a civic building that excludes people isn't civic at all. So when I think back to those residents in Aspen Gardens, keys in hand, smiling from ear to ear, I'm reminded why this matters. This is development with purpose, rooted in fairness, accessibility, and pride in our local community. And it's something that Hammersmith Broadway can be proud of, because that's the Hammersmith and Fulham Labour difference. We're making Hammersmith Broadway residents proud and secure in their place, in complete contrast to what the Tories did while in office. While I'm speaking to residents in my ward, they don't forget what happened before 2014 when they were last in power. Jetting off to the south of France, to the MIPIN conference, putting our council homes up for sale, believing, as George Osborne and David Cameron did, that the problem with building more social housing is that it creates more Labour voters. The absolute contempt that the previous Tory administration held for council tenants is frankly astonishing. Locking the council into a deliberately underfunded 10 years repairs contract for social homes, a mess we've had to unpick and fix since. But it went further than neglect. Under Conservative control, There was a programme supported by senior figures locally, some who are still in this chamber tonight, to sell off estate after estate, not to strengthen social housing, but to clear it away. Two of our largest council estates, the West Kensington and Gibbs Green estates, were sold off to developers at knockdown prices, with plans that residents rightly feared would rip whole communities out of this borough. And residents in Hammersmith Broadway knew that they would come for the Queen Caroline estate next, and then Ashcroft Square. There were leaked internal plans documented at the time that made clear the ambition was to replace council homes with private housing for overseas speculators. The document said that council estates deliver a visible return on assets and they're barracks for the poor. What kind of cruel, callous administration reduces thousands of people's homes to this? Only it was H&F Labour winning in 2014 that stopped this sell-off under the leadership of Councillor Cowan. And we got the West Kensington and Gibbs Green estates back. That is in contrast with where we are today. Instead of selling off homes and selling off residents, we're building new homes here in Hammersmith Broadway. We're building more genuinely affordable homes per square kilometre than any other London borough, and we're investing in repairs, maintenance, and in genuinely accessible buildings and public spaces that bring people together. Madam Mayor, that's why, as ward councillor, I am proud to support the amended motion on the Civic Campus. Thank you.
Councillor Harcourt?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a long-standing councillor, I hold many, many memories of the old town hall. I can also recall the appalling and luckily now defunct Tory plans for the town hall, the ones that are outlined in the amendment. Some memories are very happy, but some are not so, like the smell of toilets that often greeted you when you came into the reception, or the dreadful town hall extension that the Tories had intended keeping, as well as that horrible escalator up to the first floor. Hardly the type of welcome we want to give to our residents or guests. The new Civic Campus has put paid to all that and will provide a welcoming and safe space where residents and businesses can access important services. There's going to be a public square. You can see the start of that as you walk past it now. Cinema, arts and culture centre, along with rooftop gardens and restaurants. It is designed, as my colleagues have said, to be fully accessible for disabled people, and it's going to be one of the most environmentally sound and green of civic buildings. I visited the Civic Campus a couple of years ago when it was still very much a building site and almost unrecognisable compared to the old town hall that I knew so well. Contrast that with my latest visit just a few weeks ago, when much of the work was nearing completion. It was an exciting experience, and the difference was almost unimaginable. As my colleagues have said, the Civic Campus uses technology, and this is the area I want to concentrate on, such as solar panels and ground source heat pumps to provide low carbon energy. I had the pleasure of being shown around the Energy Centre towards the end of last year. To say I was impressed would be an absolute understatement. The Energy Centre is the heart of the Civic Campus heat network and is the most advanced and innovative system in operation. It is powered by the London Aquifer. It is operational and provides clean heating and cooling to over 200 homes and public buildings. So let's look at what is so innovative about this. The Civic Campus heat network supplies heating and cooling across the site from the London Aquifer, as I've just said. It was all paid for by grants from the government designated fund. The system uses, as Councillor Antoniades has said, 136 metre deep boreholes to draw water out of the underlying Thames Aquifer. These boreholes are 0.4 metres in diameter. The boreholes have been drilled through London geology of clay, mudstone to reach the chalk aquifer, which contains an abundance of groundwater. As I've said, and I keep on saying, this is an innovative project with huge potential for replication elsewhere in London and elsewhere in the country. The system can produce 600 kilowatts, 60 times the heating of a standard house, using heat from the boreholes with almost no pollution or emissions. I was at a London Council seminar on heat networks a few months ago when we received a presentation from Denmark, where 70% of households are connected to a heat network. Other boroughs are also engaged in heat networks, using a variety of heat sources, such as energy from waste, methane from a landfill site, and excess heat from data centres. But by comparison, our Civic Campus energy source is clean, green, and plays a major role in the decarbonisation of energy in the borough. Now, I also had the pleasure of visiting the Bunhill Energy Centre in Islington, which was the world's first scheme that uses heat from a disused underground station, the old City Road station near Old Street, to provide cheaper and greener energy to homes, schools and other buildings. There is absolutely no comparison between the cramped conditions at Bunhill and the Civic Campus Energy Centre, which is our state of art. There's one further difference. All the other heat networks provide heating and hot water that are surrounding homes and buildings, but they do not provide cooling. Our system can heat and cool different buildings at the same time and combine the energy. The need to provide cooling became only too apparent last summer with the repeated heat waves we had to endure. We've always talked about heating homes, but as climate changes, so cooling homes becomes equally as important, something our system can offer without the use of energy guzzling air conditioning systems. I know I've concentrated on the technical aspects of the heat network, but and how it reduces carbon emissions and provides cleaner air. But in these times where the cost of living crisis is hitting our most vulnerable residents hardest, we must get across to people that this system will mean residents not only get the benefits of clean energy, but perhaps more importantly, lower and more affordable energy bills. I must say, from a personal point of view, I can't wait to get back into the new Civic Centre.
Thank you very much. Councillor Alfonso.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, they clearly don't want to talk about the issues. A 3-year delay, hundreds or probably tens of millions over budget. Like, thanks, guys. I'd like to thank the councillor from Brook Green for the lecture on the architecture. Fascinating. We will enjoy the new offices, don't you worry, with a bunch of new Green councillors in the north of the borough. Thank you, we will. You might not, though. We had the other Brook Green councillor earlier talk about defections. Remind me, who have all the defections been from? I know they're not here, our two green friends, but who's next? Which one of you is going next? Time's running out, guys. You guys, all you guys are interested in is talking about the past. We on this side have a plan for the future. And on May the 7th, the electorate will get a chance to vote for that plan for the future. So it's going to be this. You guys are terrible at managing big projects, from Hammersmith Bridge to the town hall. You just can't do it. Like, let's be honest. You want to hark back about the past because to cover off from the fact that you have failed on this massively. We had several lectures on the new features of the town hall, nothing acknowledging the 3-year delay, nothing acknowledging that it's massively over budget. You don't want to talk about the issues. Our request was simple to you this evening, very simple. It was outline the figures, outline the reason for the delay, and frankly, the whole Liz Truss spiel that you guys have gone for the fiscal event, just say it same every time, mix it up a little bit. So thank you, Madam Mayor. They're clearly not serious about this. Have a good evening.
You want to? Oh, okay.
It is worth talking about this just very briefly, and I'll tell you an anecdote. I was in Malsford Road, which I understand is in Parsons Greenwood, with Ben Coleman 2 weeks ago, and I came across a man who got my hopes up because I knocked on his door, and he said to me, I'm a Conservative. And I was like, okay. He said, but I'm not voting for them. So I was like, well, that's good. And he said, and I quite like what you're doing as a council. I was like, great. So will you vote for us? And he went, you're my second choice. So I was like, you're keeping me waiting. And he was like, I'm going to vote Reform. So I was like, he said, I can't change it. I'm a Conservative. So I was like, well, why are you doing that? You know, if you believe in what we're doing. He went, I can't bring myself to ever put a mark in your box. I'm a lifelong Conservative, but I hate this lot in the Conservative Party. Is he actually, and I wrote it down, they're miserable, whining, morbid, they're smallness, they're negative, they're complaining, they're taking credit for things that it's nothing to do with them. They're doom-mongering downers. And that man's thoughts, I thought, those words, they echoed from 2 weeks ago when I heard the Conservative speeches tonight. I thought he's met them. Maybe he knows them quite well. Maybe bumped into him at a pub or something. But it's nonsense what they've said. And I understand why he doesn't want to talk about the past. You've never apologized for the past, by the way. You've never apologized for anything you got wrong or the trauma you put through people through. Never. Which means you don't apologize, or you don't distance yourself from the crimes of your government, or you don't do those things. Then all of a sudden, you're one of them. You're the same Tories we've always seen. Now, here's the thing about the civic campus. It's about, still with the overspend, which you know is marginal, and it's in keeping with other costs because you've been briefed. You've been briefed. Don't ask, have we? Ask your own team. And you can see that the details were sat out in the amendment. It's a substantial amendment. This civic campus is still significantly better value, significantly lower cost than the damn thing you saddled us with. Now, you didn't know that. There's 15,000 residents who signed a petition against it, knew it. And your solution to them? Have the planning meeting in Latimer School so you could keep 200 people from getting into the planning meeting. Only 400 were allowed in. That's what your approach was. That's what it will be again. But this isn't just about the cost, which is significantly cheaper than the ridiculous scheme you had. This scheme makes millions of pounds a year in profit. That's what it does. And it cuts cost because we now have the space to get rid of all the many offices that you took all over Hammersmith and Fulham. Now, I don't mind you being ignorant and learning on the job. That's part of it. We've all been there at some point where we say ridiculous things and there's no substance to them, and they sound good when you rehearse them in the mirror, but they come a little bit hollow when you say them in the chamber. But that's what we've witnessed tonight. And that's really the difference on offer in this election. A radical Labour administration, Social Democrats, ambitious, growing the economy, reshaping the borough, getting things done on cost, audited by the district auditor, audited by the cross-party financial review, or a bunch of people, which this guy described when I canvassed him in Molesford Road. I think he was an insightful man. I promised him I'd come back and see him again, because I'm determined to get his vote. But if you won't do that, I'm sure we can use him in other ways. Don't listen to this nonsense. Let's welcome all our residents. We know what the feedback we get from our residents. They're very excited about this big game changer as a central part of Hammersmith and Fulham. It will regenerate our borough. It will strengthen our borough, not weaken it, as all those people did last time and would do again, if only the fact they will never get a chance to get the opportunity to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I now put the amendment to the vote. Those in favour? Okay, those against? Those not voting? Okay, lovely. I declare that the amendment is carried. Are there any other speakers on the amended motion? No. Okay, and I now call on Councillor Downer Sanderson to sum up.
Madam Mayor, it was interesting to hear the councillor for Brook Green sort of let the priorities of this Labour council slip. She said, how can you compare Hammersmith Bridge to the town hall? That they're two separate things. That there's more, I think the word was heart, in the civic campus. Well, maybe it is to you, but I can assure you that there are Hammersmith Bridge reopened to traffic than to see what many would think of a bit of a monstrosity on the river. I accept that there are benefits to it. There are more homes. There are youth facilities, something that, of course, you guys tried to cut at the Solgrave Club and the Brunswick Club. But it was thanks to the Conservatives and the Greg Hands campaign, which made you reverse your decision. Well, it's true. It's true. So this is really about priorities. And you've shown to us tonight that the Civic Campus came first, and Hammersmith Bridge has been an afterthought ever since it closed. You don't care about getting it reopened. You didn't put the money where your mouth was. You've let us down. You've let residents down. And we are looking forward. You say that we're doom mongers. We have a plan to get traffic reopened on Hammersmith Bridge as soon as possible. With planning permission, our temporary bridge could be opened within months, not years, and at a fraction of the cost. It's true. So, looking ahead to the May elections, you're right, the voters will have a choice. They'll have a choice between a Conservative Party that is looking forward, that has a bold offering on the issues that residents care about, from Hammersmith Bridge to policing and safety, to building more homes, to the parking system in Hammersmith and Fulham. We will have an offering where we'll be able to say to people, this is what you will get if you vote Conservative. Or you can have more of the same, higher costs, higher taxes. I mean, this Labour government is going to ensure that you will have to hike council tax dramatically or find spending cuts. And you know that's true. You just refuse to acknowledge it. So we'll see in May. We'll see what voters really think. You can go tell them, look, we built this beautiful civic campus. You should really vote for us. I would put that as your #1 message on your leaflets. So I'm really happy we've debated this motion. I think you thought it would be something that you could really shout about, but I think you've got this one wrong. I think residents will disagree with you. Thank you.
Is the amended motion agreed? Okay. Yes. I now put the amended motion. Oh, I did that. That's dealt with. Yes, that's done. I declare the amended motion carries. There you go. That solves that problem. Lovely. Moving on now to special motion number 7, H&F Green Investment. I call on councillors Rowan Ree and Florian Chevert-Verdier to move and second.
Formally moved.
Formally seconded.
I call on councillors Ree and Chevert-Verdier to speak for the administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is no bigger issue facing our country and our planet than climate change. And I'm proud that here in Hammersmith and Fulham, we are rising to the challenge of our age. Now, one London borough cannot reverse a global trend. It can't mitigate the hundreds of coal-powered fire stations in China or power the fuel needed for the world's AI sensors. But we can make it easier for residents to make changes that they want to make to reduce their own emissions. And that's exactly what we're doing. We can put in place measures to mitigate the effects of climate change, like extreme weather. And that is what we're doing. We can install air quality monitors, electric vehicle charging points, and floods defences. And that is what we're doing. That is why Hammersmith and Fulham is Britain's greenest borough. And the H&F Green Investment is at the heart of this effort. Now, when I launched the H&F Green Investment, I said that this would be a rare win, win, win. Something's more than a slogan, a win for local investors who could get stable market-leading returns, a win for the council who can borrow for climate projects at more affordable rates, and most importantly of all, a win for our local environment, funding much needed projects across the length and breadth of our borough. And what a win it has been. Since then, we've issued 5 tranches of the H&F Green Investment, more than any other council. And across those, by this time next month, we will have raised over £4 million, again, far and away more than any other council, saving money on interest payments in the process. Local investors are already receiving returns of up to 4.8% for 5 years at a time when interest rates are falling, and we are seeing our borough transform from grey to green. On the walk here this evening, I passed the new rain gardens on King Street. Not only do they brighten up the high street, creating a nice environment for the local restaurants, shops, cafes, but they also provide vital protection from flooding, like the floods we saw in the area back in 2021. You've seen tarmac replaced by trees and natural greenery in Purcell Crescent and Normand Park, and in Eelbrook Common, a lovely part of the borough, but one that I hear is shifting more and more towards reform. New rain gardens we've got 4 new rain gardens along the Edith Road and over 120 new bike hangers across the borough. Now, I'm particularly excited about the opening of the new Westville Road greening project in Conningham, where an old concrete raised flower bed that attracted litter and antisocial behaviour is being replaced by a new community garden, designed and built in collaboration with local residents and students of Greenside School. But the future is bright for this innovative local investment scheme. We've been working closely with Abundance, the company behind the community municipal investment, and in the coming months, we will be launching the UK's first ever social impact CMI, raising returns for local investors, saving the council money and investing in our much loved parks and local playgrounds. The beauty of the H&F Green Investment is that it funds projects that residents can see in their communities, and it is already paying dividends for our residents, for the council, and most importantly for our climate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Chivot-Verdier.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I should probably start with a warning. This is a speech about infrastructure and the public realm, which sounds dull until you realise it's basically heated rivalry, long-term commitment, high stakes, and one side refusing to accept reality. So stay with me, because this is one of those moments where something that sounds dull is actually changing our streets, protecting our homes, and improving daily life for residents across the borough. This motion is about doing climate action properly, not with slogans, not with culture war, not with distractions, but with delivery. We declared a climate and ecological emergency in 2019, but ambition alone doesn't stop flooding, doesn't clean the air, doesn't make it easier to cycle safely. Investment does. That's why we created the H&F Green Investment, the largest of its kind by a local authority. It allows residents and businesses to invest directly in local green infrastructure, earn a fixed return, while funding the improvements people actually see outside their front doors. And crucially, every pound of local investment is matched to double its impact. And the people have responded. Over 3.25 million have already been raised, backed by hundreds of investors, many of them local residents. That's not ideology, that's smart, responsible local government. From the perspective of the public realm, the results are already visible. We are investing in, through this program, page is messing up, in sustainable drainage systems and rain gardens that absorb stormwater, reduce surface flooding, and cool streets during heat waves. Instead of concrete pushing water into overwhelmed drains, we're building green infrastructure that protects homes and businesses. We are greening the grey, planting street trees that clean the air and provide shade and restore biodiversity in places people walk through every day. And we are backing sustainable transportation that actually works. Through this program, we are delivering 500 secure cycle hangers by 2027, with 100 already installed. That matters because bike theft is one of the biggest barriers to cycling. If you don't have a safe place to store your bike, you don't cycle. This is how you support active infrastructure travel, practical infrastructure delivered street by street. We are also funding energy upgrades, solar panels, LED lighting, and air source heat pumps in schools, libraries, and community centres, cutting emissions while reducing long-term costs. Now, let's be honest about the political contracts. While we are delivering real infrastructure here, our friends across the board, nationally and too often locally, have been focused on delays, cuts, and distractions. They talk about fiscal responsibility when they slash budgets. They talk about climate action while they watered down targets and cancelled programs. They complain about congestions while they undermine investment in walking, cycling, and public transport. We choose a different path. We build a model that allows us to borrow more cheaply, invest more quickly, and deliver locally without gambling public money and without pushing costs onto future generations. This is the opposite of the reckless financial behaviour we've seen from Conservative-run government and councils, and the opposite of the short-termism that defines Conservative thinking on climate and infrastructure. To summarise, this motion supports exactly the borough we are trying to build. Streets that don't flood every time it rains, neighbourhoods that are cooler, greener and healthier, transport systems that make walking and cycling normal, safe, public buildings that are cleaner, cheaper to run and fit for the future. While the Conservatives argue, delay and posture, we deliver street by street, rain garden by rain garden, cycle hanger by cycle hanger. So yes, Chair, this may have sounded like a speech about infrastructure, but like in any good heated rivalry episode, what looks like technical on the surface is really about commitment, long-term choices, and who's prepared to show up and do the work. And in this case, it's about the streets people live on, the air that they breathe, the future we're building together, not through grandstanding, through delivery. That's what this Labour administration does. It doesn't pick up your sound. I can yap forever. That's what this Labour administration does, Madam Mayor. While others just perform the outrage, we deliver. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been informed that councillors Harcourt, Carmel and Nimmo would also wish to speak. So, Councillor Harcourt.
Okay, thank you once again, Madam Mayor. As my colleagues have already indicated, the H&F for the Hammersmith and Fulham Green Investment was set up to help fund community and council projects from across our climate and ecology strategy to improve neighbourhoods, to support communities and make our borough more resilient to the changing climate. The types of projects range from clean energy for buildings to more greening and sustainable drainage schemes, as both my colleagues have just outlined. Now, I'm not going to go into any great detail about the various projects tonight, but it's worth mentioning just a few to give you a flavour of those schemes, some of which have already been mentioned, so sorry for repeating that. Refurbishing the rain garden in College Park, rain gardens in Lycia Street, the rain gardens in King Street that Councillor Ree mentioned. Similarly, the SUD schemes in Westville Road that were mentioned, tree pits in Askew Road, extension of green verges in Broomhouse Lane, greening projects in Harwood Terrace and Hammersmith Grove, cycle hangers, cargo bike sheds, which nobody else had mentioned, and free water butts for residents. All these projects have helped to contribute to Hammersmith and Fulham's resilience to climate change, but have also made the borough a cleaner, greener and better place to live. But let's not worry about all of that, because that wasn't the only reason for raising the money. I was at a London Council's workshop on Monday for cabinet members holding the climate change portfolio from all the London boroughs. We discussed a whole range of issues and challenges that each borough was facing in delivering their climate change strategy. And one area stood out and came from all the councils there. That was how to get the narrative across to residents who, while supporting the work to mitigate climate change, other pressing matters such as the cost of living crisis have diverted their attention quite properly and understandably. Well, the green investment has helped maintain and deliver that narrative. All the projects have been designed to be highly visible and have all been badged with funded by Hammersmith and Fulham's green investment. When works are taking place, there have been large banners surrounding the site repeating the same message. You cannot miss it if you see the work going on, and the one in Westville Road was particularly noticeable for that signage. When works are taking place, as I say, there have been these large banners. It's about keeping our work on preventing climate change in the public eye and reinforcing the message that residents can also have a part to play. It's residents who have funded these projects. They own them, and they stand as a constant reminder that the work on climate change is ongoing and of the benefits it can bring. It's not just me saying this. You know, I've been stopped by a number of residents who've commented on the difference the rain gardens have made to King Street, and even TfL, that wonderful body, sent us an email recognising the improvements the rain gardens have made in King Street, and that stands on record as well. I've never had an email from TfL before. I'm not congratulating us on work anyway. The free water butts may not sound like much, but put them against the drought we had from spring through summer last year, and their value becomes immediately apparent. Conserving water is an important aspect of mitigating the effects of climate change. So if you're one of the residents who's taken up the offer of a free water butt, which incidentally we also fit for free, then you will have a constant reminder of climate change every time you go out into your back garden, and how the green investment and your money has contributed to greening the borough and mitigating the effects of climate change. Every water butt is badged with the green investment logo. The green investment is just one aspect of the work we're doing in this borough in the fight against climate change, but it is one of, if not the most highly visible and successful projects keeping residents engaged in and reminded about the importance of tackling climate change.
Thank you. Councillor Carmel.
This one, if I may. First of all, Mayor, can I thank members of this council and the officers for their very warm welcome back from my period away as well. And it's a pleasure to be back. And I look at this motion in front of us, and I think, at face value, what is there not to like about it? Here we are, raising funds to invest in green projects that will improve the lives of not just us, but the next generations as well. And I would like at this stage to thank particularly the Esme Fairbairn Foundation, who are matching 50% of the any investment that is put in by our citizens, and I applaud our citizens investing in their own community. Although I did hear, I think, unless I misunderstood, that all the funds are going to be matched, and I'll be grateful to find out who's matching the other 50% that is there. And also looking at this, I congratulate the administration for having the bravery after their past fiascos to invest in interest rate financial instruments. Some of us, not actually many of us left, do remember Hazel and the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham, and I still go down on my knees and give thanks to the House of Lords for the decision that they made when the council made promises on interest rates. Going into the details a bit of this, and as with all investment schemes, the devil is in the details, and I can't claim to be a financial expert that understands all the detailed backwork that goes into the legal agreements that go into this, but I noted that if the funds are not allocated, in the circumstances, the unallocated funds that can be held in temporary investment instruments that do not include greenhouse gas intensive projects, which are inconsistent with the delivery of low carbon, can be applied to temporarily reduce indebtedness of a revolving nature before being redrawn for investments or disbursements to our eligible assets. And it then goes on to say later on in the paragraphs, if the unallocated funds have not been allocated to eligible green projects after 24 months, that's 40% of the term of the bond, the council will make a statement to investors setting out their plans for the money. Yeah, not investing for, well, this is what the documentation says. And, you know, if you give us an undertaking that you'll do it in under 3 months, you know, that is something that I for one will, I will welcome. And I noticed that our latest bond, which is currently standing at £580,000 and a couple of pounds over that, which was an increase on £268 on yesterday's fundraising target, which according to my scribbled down maths is only 1,194 days to go before we reach our funding target. I'm also a little concerned about, because there's nothing for free, it goes on about how this is a better for us than the Public Work Loan Board. But I noticed that there's a setup fee of 0.75% of the total amount raised. And there was also an administration fee of 0.2% of the total amount raised, which is per year. And also, reading on further into some of the background papers, it says your invested capital is at risk. And then not to do a panorama, and just to say that I am abridging part of the thing as opposed to eliding it. Abundance, who are running the investment scheme for us, Abundance's services are not covered by the financial services compensation scheme. And it goes on to say that your capital is at risk. And it also goes on to say that tax treatment may be subject to change in the future. And given Rachel Reeves's record in changing tax treatment of people who invest and expect one thing, and then it then changes to another before the latest U-turn by this government, is quite another. I would really like to support this. On the face of it, it is a wonderful, wonderful project which invests in the future of our community, which I've and my colleagues fully support. There's not quite enough here, and I look forward to the summation to
Give them the chance.
for some answers. Thank you.
For the record, welcome back. Moving on, Councillor Nimmo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to speak not just in support of this council's green investment programme, as my colleagues have done before, but in defence of the political choices behind it, because it's a programme that shows exactly what Hammersmith and Fulham Labour is all about. At a time when residents are facing rising bills, worsening air quality, and the very real impacts of climate change, this council has refused to shrug its shoulders or hide behind excuses. Instead, we have acted, and we have acted in a way that is fair and adheres to our principle of ruthless financial efficiency. Our green investment programme is a statement of our values. We said that tackling the climate emergency is not optional. We're ambitiously seeking to get to net zero by 2030. And we said that local people should have a stake in the solutions. And we said that public money should work harder, delivering environmental benefits and a fair return, rather than sitting idle or being siphoned off by distant private interests. And around my ward, residents can see the results of that political choice. On King Street, the now famous rain gardens and sustainable drainage schemes are in place. They are practical interventions that reduce flood risk and cut pollution and make our thriving town centre a healthier place to be. They show that climate action can improve daily life, especially in diverse, high footfall wards such as Hammersmith Broadway. And in Frank Banfield Park, that's not hitherto been mentioned, just on the edge of my ward, investment has helped deliver greener, more biodiverse spaces that are genuinely used by the community. And for families living in flats without gardens, these spaces are vital, and that is social justice as well as environmental policy. And through investment in secure cycle storage and active travel, we are backing residents who want to make cleaner choices. None of this happens by accident. It happens because this council made a political decision to prioritise climate action even in tough financial circumstances, and to do so in a way that brings residents with us. And while we are delivering, others are watching. Councils across London and beyond, including Hounslow, Westminster and Southwark, are now rolling out similar green investment schemes. They are copying this model because it works, because it unlocks new funding, because it builds public trust, and because Hammersmith and Fulham has shown leadership. And it matters because it exposes a wider truth. In Hammersmith and Fulham, we've stepped up. We've become one of Britain's greenest boroughs, not only due to the Green Investment Programme, but our measures to reduce pollution, green our public realm, and retrofit our housing stock. When times are tough, we've kept our commitment to the environment, which is one of the very many reasons why I'm proud to be a part of Hammersmith and Fulham Labour. Madam Mayor, the real risk is doing nothing. For wards like Hammersmith Broadway, the cost of inaction is higher flooding risk, dirtier air, poorer health outcomes, and public spaces that fail the people who rely on them the most. That is what residents experience if councils choose short-termism over leadership. So make no apology for saying this. This is what progressive local government looks like: investing locally, trusting residents, delivering visible change, and refusing to accept that climate action must wait for better economic times. I hope all councillors continue to back this motion and support expanding this scheme where we can. So I know I can say we all want Hammersmith and Fulham to continue its climate leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Okay. I now call on Councillor Reid to sum up.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to say I'm extremely pleased to see Councillor Carmel back in this meeting and to thank him for his contribution. It's good of him to have read through the terms and conditions of the products. I can see he's got a keener eye for financial detail than some of his colleagues sitting near him. He asks a series of questions. I'm going to try and go through them and put his mind at rest. Firstly, around unallocated funds, we certainly don't plan to have any unallocated funds. We have a list of projects ready to go, waiting for funding to match them, and that's why we're seeing so many of these projects going ahead as the money comes online. He asked about some of the costs that go into this. So this is included in the certainty rate. This is part of the rate that's quoted, so it still gives us a saving on borrowing from the Public Works Loans Board, which varies on each tranche, but it's always lower than it would be if we were borrowing the money directly. We're a ruthlessly financially efficient council, and we certainly wouldn't be signing off any borrowing that was more expensive than it needed to be. He mentions that tired old phrase, capital at risk. Sadly, as it's a regulated product, this is something that we have to include. I would say it's an incredibly unrisky investment. There is no circumstance the council has ever found itself in where the money wouldn't have been repaid, and we certainly aren't in any sort of difficulty that would prevent that here in Hammersmith and Fulham. I'd certainly recommend it to anyone who is listening who is interested. He mentions tax treatment, which reminds me that I can plug it as part of an innovative financing ISA. If anyone here hasn't filled their ISA allowance yet, there's still time to do so, and you can get your Hammersmith and Fulham green investments without the taxman getting their hands on it. I hope that's eased some of the concerns that you had. Following on from Councillor Nimmo, who's absolutely right to say that this is a social justice project as well as a project bringing environmental benefits. So many people across this borough don't have access to things like safe cycle storage facilities, and so providing these means that more and more people can take part in active transport. He's also right to say that where we lead, London and the rest of the country follows. Community municipal investments are going to become a staple of the saving products landscape, and I'm very pleased that Hammersmith and Fulham is right at the forefront of that and have got in at the ground level. I'm going to stop the sales pitch now and pay tribute to Councillor Harcourt and Councillor Chabot-Verdier, who've done such fantastic work making sure that our borough is fit for the future in building the green infrastructure that we need to combat climate change. And finally, just to say that the public support that we've had for these products has been absolutely overwhelming. Residents are putting their money where their mouths are, and they're seeing an improved borough as a result. Thank you very much.
Is the motion agreed? Okay, I declare that the motion is therefore carried. Moving now to special motion number 1, celebrating Black History Month 2025 in Hammersmith and Fulham. I call on Councillors Francis Ume and Max Mead to move and second.
Formally moved.
Formally seconded.
Okay. I call on Councillor Ume and Smead to speak for the administration.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. People, there's no need to check your calendar or adjust your clocks. It is January 2026 and Black History Month is celebrated in the UK in October. But here is the thing. Black history isn't seasonal. It shows up in our classrooms, our public services, our culture, and our local institutions every single day of the year. Black History Month itself has been celebrated across the UK since the late 1980s, a time used for reflection, learning, and celebration. A moment for all of us, no matter our background, to recognise the contributions of Black, African, and Caribbean people to our shared history. Fast forward to the present day and the most recent celebration, which focused on standing firm in power and pride. Here in Hammersmith and Fulham, our borough is home to more than 22,000 residents identifying as Black. The borough was alive with celebration. Along King Street, a powerful open-air exhibition celebrated trailblazers from our African and Caribbean communities. We proudly honoured residents from musical pioneer Fela Kuti and visionary activists Marcus and Amy Garvey to local legends like Janet Adegoke, Hammersmith's former mayor and first Black woman to hold that position in a London borough. In more recent years, we've had two more Black women mayors, Councillor Mercy Ume, who in my unbiased view is a powerhouse who inspires many with her dedication and heart. And of course, Madam Mayor Sharon Holder, a proud Windrush daughter and a fierce community champion. We're also very lucky to have everyday heroes walking among us, people who lead with heart, generosity, and an unwavering commitment to our community. Sinead at West Youth Zone, giving people a place to be heard and dream big. Keith, mentoring and inspiring young people through sport. Healthcare champions like Catherine and June from the NHS. Pauline, Sharon and Kez from the Ashe Project. Dr. Christina standing with single mothers. Alison through managing our mental. Rashida, Pinky and Chat. The list is endless. It goes on. It's a bit like the Oscars. But they are all driving forces for good. And tonight we've also heard about Jazz Brown and her work, which is vital with Nubian Life. This is just a handful of the many people who show up in this borough to speak out and lift others up every single day. Their impact is woven into the fabric of our community, and tonight it's really important to honour that. This Labour administration, more than any other, has put the most time and energy into Black history, working with our schools and partners to embed this history in public programmes beyond October is vital to ensure that engagement continues. We've heard a lot on that side of the chamber about priorities, but unsurprisingly, not really a lot about actual priorities. In fact, the opposition refused to prioritise Black History Month. They refused to invest in Black history and considered it a waste of time. This administration does not believe that. We believe in the power of diverse communities and the richness each and every one of us brings to this community. Black history is not finished business, it's ongoing. And it's our role to make sure that that story being written now is one that future generations will recognise as fair, inclusive and real. I hope all can support this motion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sweet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a real privilege to speak here tonight to celebrate Black History Month. I was sad that we weren't able to get to it the last full council, which fell during the UK Black History Month. But having grown up in America, having this motion here just days before the American Black History Month in February is also timely, particularly with everything that's happening there. While I'm not Black myself, clearly, Black History Month matters to us all because Black history is British history. Indeed, it's American history, and it's most definitely part of the history of the Shepherd's Bush ward I represent and of our borough. When we talk about Black history, we must talk about courage. The courage of generations who fought against slavery and racism. We should also talk about achievement from Black people who came from across the empire to defend this country from the Nazis, to the Windrush generation who then helped us rebuild after the war and to forge the NHS, and to the artists, teachers, campaigners and neighbours, and indeed mayors who continue to enrich it. And we're talking about the truth, the need to confront the injustices that persist today, and to make our society fairer, more inclusive, and more honest about its past. And while now is a time to celebrate Black history, it's also a time to listen to the stories of our neighbours, to listen to those who's faced discrimination, and to use our positions as councillors, residents, and allies to make sure those voices shape the policies and priorities of our borough. Critically, it is a time to resist the racial profiling that we see on the streets of Minneapolis and across America. And worryingly, also here across Europe, we can't try to pretend that the damage caused by slavery and colonialism does not still live with us today. We must resist the idea that we have somehow fixed racism. We have a shared responsibility to ensure that young Black Londoners see their history reflected in their education, their heroes represented in public life, and their future free from the barriers of the past. So, as we pass this motion celebrating Black History Month, let's commit not just to remembering it, but to acting, to championing equality in every school, every workplace, and every council decision, and to celebrating the immense contributions of Black residents across Hammersmith and Fulham, past, present, and future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is this? No, pause. Okay. I'm really sorry. I've been having such a good time. The guillotine, apparently, has now fallen. Okay. Councillor Schmid, do you want to say? No. Councillor Ume, do you want to exercise your right to reply to sum up the debate?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I would just say that it's fantastic to hear the words that Councillor Schmid has shared. I think it would be remiss of any one of us within this chamber not to think about the inequality that exists within society when it comes to Black people, when it comes to health, when it comes to education, when it comes to the systems of power that exist and seek to oppress other people. I think as part of Black history, we need to recognise that Black history is British history. It's a part of our shared story as both a borough, a country, and even as we've heard tonight, more globally. And by recognising that, it strengthens who we are together. And that recognition should not just be reflected occasionally, but it needs to be done consistently throughout the year. So thank you, Councillor, for speaking so passionately, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support for this motion this evening.
All the motions published and amended circulated at the beginning of the meeting are hereby moved and seconded. It will now take all the questions necessary to dispose of the remaining motions and reports. Anything? Okay. Okay, carry on. Okay, special motion number 1, is the motion agreed? Agreed. Okay. Special
Madam Mayor, we've withdraw special motions 6 and 2.
6 and 2.
Madam Mayor, likewise, we withdraw special motion 7.3.
That's it. Well, thank you very much and good night.
Can't email them anything because it's the election.
Oh, yeah.
As in, then the next full council that has motions will be after the election, so yeah, otherwise.
And it doesn't count.
No, but that's after the election as well. Next one's budget.
Sorry. No, I am coming to the budget one.